This is Bruce Buffer, and this is the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time for the MMA-Holes!
No way.
From the Dying Channel Studios of Arizona, live tonight, Mark Harley will be live with the MMA-Holes. Be seated. Be seated.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Welcome, everyone, to the MMA-Holes Live. Make sure you hit that like button. We got a fantastic show planned for you tonight. UFC this weekend. We'll be reacting to that, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. I want to make a shout-out to our sponsors, CBDX.com, Sheath Underwear, Head Rush, MyBookie. The promo code is MMA-HOLES. For tonight's spectacular, we have a great show for you. We have a guest that hasn't been on before, but he is all over the news. My friends, this is a crazy guest that we have on. I'm very excited to get to know a new friend of the show, Mark Harley, live on the MMA-Holes. Give him a round of applause, please. I feel so inferior with my flex compared to yours.
Ha ha ha! Yeah, I'm just mirroring yours. I'm big and bloated at the moment, so filling out this XL T-shirt pretty well.
You're looking great, man. I got to say this right off the bat. So first of all, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate you stopping by over here. I'm sorry?
Oh, I said thank you for inviting me. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I do hear you. It's good to have you here. And right off the bat, I got to say this. You look like a lion and Brad Pitt had a baby. Have you ever got that before? I mean, you're a very handsome man and a ferocious looking man at the same time.
Thank you. That's a nice compliment. I'll take both of those. Those are probably the two of the best things you can, compare me to. Mostly I get like Lou Ferrigno or people telling me I look like a caveman. So there's a lot of unflattering comparisons one could make about my appearance. So I'm happy to have, the ones that you just made. As far as an animal and a person, I don't think it gets better than Brad Pitt and a lion. So.
Right? I mean, I'm telling you, handsome man. I'm happy to have you over here. So I'm going to give you a little backstory of how I found out who you were. I'm not really plugged into the whole, Thiccc Boy studio stuff and the whole Fighter and the Kid. I wasn't really plugged into your show as well. But, a lot of people, the reason why I found out who you were, a lot of people out there were criticizing and throwing the memes and going crazy and like basically kind of throwing you under the bus. And I was guilty of that too. Just by looks, I was like, oh, this guy's got to be a douchebag. That's what I thought right off the bat.
Yeah, an easy target for sure. And so I don't fault anybody for giving me what I would consider the least charitable interpretation of what you see at face value.
Yeah, it's weird. We're messed up as a society because when I heard a couple of your interviews, and I actually did a little bit of research on the podcast, and I was listening to you, you actually sound like a nice man, and I feel like a dick now, like saying, oh, look at this meathead.
Thank you. Well, I mean, guilty by association, I guess. But no, I appreciate and applaud anybody who, if you have a first impression, and then you're able to suspend that in the face of new information. I mean, I think that's what we should strive for as human beings in general. And of course, I'm guilty of that all the time. But the practice is, to not make a final judgment or not be so, so stuck on that first impression that you reject new information. So if anybody changes their mind, I think that's it's impressive to me. It's psychologically impressive.
Well, hey, I appreciate that, and yeah, I have changed my mind. You seem like a nice man, and I got to be honest with you, man. Like the news that's been swirling around is really absolutely crazy. What's been going on with the whole Schaub world? But what I wanted to do is I wanted to go into a little backstory about you. I wanted to get to know you a little bit better because a lot of people in my community might be in the same boat as me. We're not too familiar with Hella Mark Harley. First off, where did you come up with the Hella part? How did this get into the name?
That's because I moved to the Bay Area when I was in 7th grade, and or right after I finished 7th grade. So I was 8th grade, and I remember meeting this skateboarder when I was skating across the street from my house. He was a few years older than me, and he said something to the effect of like, "Yo, bro, you smoke weed? I got hella nugs." And that was the first time I heard the word hella.
Okay.
And from then on, I would hear it all the time. It's like a Bay Area slang term that people use in a variety of ways. Like you could use it as a noun, like how much you got? Like I got hella. Or it's an adjective, like it's, hella gay, or really that's an adverb if it's, adding on to an adjective. But it's a word that's just, I think is really sticky, and it adds a cadence to my name that I think is repeatable. So I picked the name, and I just like the rhythm of saying Hella Mark Harley more than my name without that word. And I've kind of found that people like repeating it too. That was my suspicion, is that people, if you hear it, Hella Mark Harley just has a nice ring to it.
Sure.
And I think it's worked out so far because people will call me Hella or they'll call me Hella Mark. And I think that's the point of, endowing yourself with a nickname or a handle, right?
Yeah. So this is not a stage name, right? Mark Harley's your actual real name?
Right, yeah, Mark Harley's my actual name.
But you got a name that's made for celebrity status. I mean, Harley, Mark Harley, that sounds like your parents knew what they were doing when they named you.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it at all. But no affiliation with the Harley-Davidson motorcycle company. But yeah, it's just Irish. I think that's the Irish side, Irish and Italian, background, so.
I'm glad we cleared that up. Now, it's Mark and it's not Marg, right? Correct?
Yeah, okay. But you can call me either one. I really don't take it. Like, people call me Big Gay Lion from the subreddit and Marg. I don't take offense to any of that stuff because I find myself, repeating all these same things, all the terms in the Bopaverse, as it were. They're all very sticky, just like I mentioned earlier. So. At first I think I took offense to, or just like, it was a signal of animosity. But now that I'm like interacting with a lot of people on the subreddit, and I've come to find that a lot of people are actually really cool. I've been talking to them in DMs and stuff. So it's more than just me posting on there. I actually am privately communicating with a lot of people, and I found a lot. So people will message me Marg or BGL, and I don't take offense to it. I know it's all in good fun at this point. So no, I don't. It's Mark, but you can call me Marg.
Well, I'm catching up on this. I am not too in tune with the whole Fighter and the Kid subreddit and all that stuff. Today I jumped in there just to say, hey, if you guys have any questions, hop on, because I'm new to this stuff. But man, just by the little bit of research and all the crazy, it's like their own language. That whole Reddit has their own language from this whole Brendan Schaub community situation. It's pretty fascinating, right?
Yeah, it is really interesting because now the first time I ever appeared on The Fighter and the Kid, it was like immediate that, and this is kind of where the misunderstanding happened for me. Now, of course, they were being antagonistic and they were attacking a guy who was my friend at the time, but like I show up on Fighter and the Kid, I didn't know about the subreddit at all, and then all of a sudden I'm getting all this inundated with comments and messages with like, dicey and what are we doing here and all the language, and it's like, you're like, what the fuck are they talking about? But then, because I didn't even know Brendan that well to like know the history of the show and know a lot of these moments, like, because there's literally a lore behind every word in this lexicon of Brendan Schaub language. It all has a meaning, and some of it gets repeated more than others. Like, he'll say narrative, and that's your narrative a lot, but some of the things good douche or whatever. Like there's other things that just come from one story one time. So it's really kind of fascinating. But a lot of like, I've been finding myself using the language to other people who have no fucking idea what I'm talking about. Like they'll be like, oh yeah, like that movie was good. I'm like, yeah, that was Netflix. And they're like, huh? I'm like, oh,
It is catchy. Like I found myself today when I was going down that rabbit hole. I was starting to say some of these things. A trug walk, calling trugs.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I was asking, hey, can I walk you to your drug?
Yeah. It's pretty fascinating. But I did look at your IMDb and I noticed that you have been around. You've been like doing like movies and stuff like that. The movies have some very interesting names. So how did you get into the whole acting world?
Well, I studied theater in college for the first time. I decided acting was something that I might want to get into. I auditioned for some plays and did, some plays, got my first lead in a play. Then I actually, when I first graduated college, actually, funny enough, I told myself like, you couldn't make it in acting. So like, but I was screenwriting at the time. So I'm a self-taught screenwriter. And wrote a screenplay right out of college that ended up being made called Perfect Sport. And so I was kind of pursuing that for a while, and almost like I'd convinced myself, or let other people convince me maybe that I like acting's going to be a waste of time. And I only came way back around to it like when I was about 29 or 30. I got my first agent, and so when you look at my IMDb, for example, because people one of the things I would always get is like, you're just a failed actor. It's like any role I get, I'm grateful for. So I don't look at myself as like a failed actor. I look at myself who never had any expectations of any roles whatsoever, and then was excited to have anything come my way. And some of it's but I've worked professionally in TV and commercials. I don't think they put the commercials on there, but I'll be in Eckrich sausage commercials. I'll be in there's a movie, Blonde Experiment, that just came out. I was in a Nickelodeon show. that Seven Dust Dying to Live music video. So there's been some cool stuff in there, and some of 50 Central, that was cool working with 50 Cent. So, but again, I don't look at this like, I need more acting roles to validate me. That would be cool, but literally, I've always just thought about it like the odds are so stacked against any individual actor to even get a single role that I am actually very grateful for anything that I get.
I bet it must have been something else. Listen, I mean, I get it. People are making jokes about, what you were actually in, but the fact that you had a chance to do these things is actually pretty cool. So, right. Do you still consider yourself an actor? Are you a podcaster? Are you just an entertainer or a social media personality?
I would consider myself an entertainer, but because acting is limited. Like what's cool also is I've been doing these skits with Isaiah Miranda, and I didn't even realize like what the reach of a lot of these was, but I've been getting recognized more, especially when I go to the gym, because if you kind of follow one gym personality, the algorithm on YouTube will suggest you that these other things. So every week, me and Isaiah crank out a few sketches, and at minimum they'll get a few 100,000 views, and some of them do a few million. So if you get to do a sketch that reaches 10 million people, chances are, you might walk by somebody who's seen it, at some point. And so that's been really cool, just because it's another way to connect to people, and it also is just, I love, because the thing about being an actor too is like, you put yourself in a position where other people have to give you permission to do the thing that you want to do. Okay. With making these fun little skits for TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Instagram, it kind of takes a little bit of that back. And I do acting because it's fun. I never had any grand ambition of becoming a movie star. I thought it was fun, and then I did it. And, some acting instructors told me to pursue it more, and I did. So I would consider myself an actor, but now I kind of put that under the umbrella of, social media is so cool. You can do whatever the fuck you want to get your point across. And I consider podcasting and doing skits, and even just doing I do these stupid little one takes in the gym where, I go, a lot of people have been asking me, and it's a joke on how influencers always like, a lot of people have been asking me about my hair care routine, and, nobody's actually asking them at all. Uh-huh. So yeah, I think social media and all that has given me an opportunity to just express myself, and I do think of myself as an entertainer, and it allows me to connect to other people and just share my voice,
Sure. Yeah, I mean, now's the time to capitalize on social media. I mean, what we have at our fingertips is crazy. You can start a business doing anything in this world. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful time to be alive. And I do want to say to the community that's watching live right now, make sure you hit that like button. Also, I just want to say this. I know we're an MMA channel, but this is MMA related in some sort of way. Brendan Schaub, who was a UFC fighter, is all over the internet doing his thing over here. And Mark was nice enough to come on the show, but unfortunately, a bad situation with you guys broke up. But how did you guys meet, you and Brendan and the boys?
So we actually met by Chappelle Lacey. And it's kind of a funny story in and of itself because Chappelle was trying to get us to connect, and I think it was kind of like for this diet challenge. Chappelle, looking back, Chappelle would bring me up, and this was fortuitous to a pattern that would actually, play itself out and kind of be one of the reasons that Brendan and I are no longer friends. Is that Chappelle would be like, oh, I was working out with my buddy Mark Harley, bring him up, and he'd bring up a picture of me ripped and shirtless on my Instagram. And Brendan would kind of be like, well, yeah, he's on steroids, or yeah, he only has 300 likes. So it was funny to me at the time, and I dismissed it. But looking back, I'm like, I honestly don't know if Brendan ever liked me, to be honest. And I think, personality types like his tend to kind of, they're drawn to people almost in service of their envy. Brendan, Chappelle eventually got me to come work out with them at Zoo Culture during the pandemic. And before that, I made them a diet and workout routine. And I just looked back at the episode where Chappelle called me during a TFATK episode in November 2020, I think it was. And all I remember was getting called, but there was a segment beforehand where Brendan's bad-mouthing my diet. He's like, can we talk about the diet your buddy made? It's got 300 grams of carb and it sucks and this and that. But it didn't have the macronutrients he was even citing. So he was getting it wrong and kind of trashing me. And I'm like, hey, I just sat down and spent 2 hours doing all this work for you and putting out a diet and a workout routine and explaining all the theory behind why I was doing this. And he kind of boiled it down to there's too many carbs in this. And he also got that wrong. So I didn't see that part until recently. And I'm kind of this motherfucker has kind of been doing a version of the same thing, almost since I met him, which is lying and exaggerating to dismiss people. But
it's wild how there was red flags right from the beginning, right? That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And in retrospect, there was a couple, and I wasn't conscious of this because I didn't see the clip leading into it. But, it's a good lesson to always heed those kinds of things. When people, because with him, I think people who give him a pass is kind of he's lovable. Oh, he flubs things. Oh, he gets things wrong. But then over time you realize it's all in one direction. He's always getting things wrong to make himself look better and to put other people down. The numbers don't ever swap. It's not like he's exaggerating, things to make other people look good or make himself look worse. It's always that kind of one directional thing. And I think that's, one of these red flags of narcissism. But we ended up working out at Zoo Culture and kind of becoming friends through that. And then through that, he offered me a podcast. And we did become friends, from seeing each other a lot. And even I was just looking at this podcast to another moment where I'm in retrospect, this is a big red flag. He had me and my wife over to watch some MMA. It was a fight card, a fight night rather, and it was the night that Malik actually ended up getting fired from the Fighter and the Kid podcast. So it was kind of this big evening, and what had happened was, on the show prior to this, I guess Malik had corrected Brendan about whether or not the boxing card that weekend was a pay-per-view. Okay. And Brendan was like, no, it isn't, and Malik doubled down, and he was right. And then after that, I guess he texted Malik you're off the tour or something like that. You're not gonna come this weekend or something. And I didn't somebody pointed that out to me oh shit, those two things were kind of connected because then Malik now, in my opinion, Malik could have maybe dealt with the situation better, but they'd wanted him to sign an NDA or something like that. And maybe that was given to him prior to that, but he's like, I'm not signing this NDA until I got a contract for the road and a pay increase. He made some demands that I think were actually maybe not the wisest things, given that he was already getting quite a bit of money for his experience level in comedy, and his experience in podcasting. So he had a pretty sweet setup, and he was only, had to deal with Brendan a few times a week. Now, we were probably dealing with a lot of the same issues. He just dealt with it in maybe a more angry, explosive way. And I tried to express some of these things that I had issues with Brendan to his face, and just saw one of the reasons I'm going public now is I gave him multiple opportunities, communicated these things directly and very clearly with examples, and he didn't seem to really digest any of them and would kind of give me the "I'm sorry you feel that way" treatment. and you know, since then he just hasn't really. He's tried to reach out to me and apologize, like not even apologize. He'll kind of like spread the blame and go, I don't like how things went down. Let's meet up and talk. And it's like it's almost like implying that like you need to meet me halfway and then meet up and drive to where I'm at. Like, I just hate shit like that. If you feel like you're wrong about something, I didn't feel wrong about anything, so I'm not going to apologize or not going to meet up. But you know, it's a classic kind of manipulation tactic in my opinion. And so anyway, does that explain? That's a really roundabout way of saying how
I get what you're saying here. So I have friends that are like, they're kind of in this universe over here, but I don't know Brendan personally at all. And so I can't make an accurate assessment of who he is as a person, but there is an overwhelming, you know, consensus about, you know, the narcissism and, there's a lot of things that people, it seems like it's just all adding up together. And I did see the thing with Ariel Helwani. I took Brendan's side with Ariel's situation because I have my experiences with Ariel. But, you know, as time goes on, who knows, you know, possibly maybe Brendan was wrong in this scenario. I do want to get your nuanced
perspective on that too. Like, I don't even to this day, I don't necessarily take Ariel's side just because I'm like, so at the time I remember like pointing out, like thinking about certain things. And I know like he had said that on air, the main thing that seemed to catch was him saying Ariel's a nightmare to work with. But then privately, Brendan did discuss with me like that what he said was accurate. There's some other things that went into it. Like he apparently like fudged the facts when it came to like how Ariel got the Showtime gig, you know, to do the announcing, and kind of Brendan made it seem like, oh, it's only because I rejected it. But like privately, there are some things, and it's hard to take certain things at face value when Brendan says them. But I will say this. You have these experiences with Ariel Helwani. Maybe he is difficult to work with, and Brendan cited some people to me that he like had said he was difficult to work with. He can't come out and be like, oh yeah, well, like this person and this person and this person all say you're difficult to work with. So if he's looking for an apology or a retraction, I think part of what Brendan was saying was rooted in him passing on what he'd heard. However, why would you say that on air? I just don't think that it's like your place to be like, Ariel Helwani's a dick, like, and everyone I've talked to, and that's kind of another narcissistic tactic, because he'd do that to me. He'd be like, well, everyone says this. And I'm like, well, unless you tell me who's saying it, like, I can't then go verify it. And even sometimes I have gone, because like everyone at the Fight Companion like said this about you, or like everybody at the studio, and then one by one I'll call everybody and be like, hey man, you can feel free to be honest. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to push back. Like, please tell me if you have any issue or if this matches up. And I kind of see like he does exaggerate things where if he's feeling something, he'll go, everybody else feels this way, as a way to absolve himself of responsibility for making the accusation. So I think most of what Brendan did was in very poor taste.
Okay.
You know, like Ariel obviously strategically used that situation to gain a lot of credibility. And I actually have the utmost respect for Ariel as far as like his ability to articulate exactly what he's thinking. He's a very clear thinker and a very clear speaker. And Brendan's apologies online just fell short one after the other. And I know I was actually one of the reasons I defended Brendan is because I was with him when he wrote a private apology to Ariel in text, almost immediately. Chael Sonnen like reached out to him. I remember we were doing deadlifts at Zoo Culture. He reaches out and goes, hey man, I think you might have like said something that like Ariel took issue with, and it'd be good if you reached out to him. Brendan did it immediately, but
so he reached out personally. He reached out, so that is true.
He reached out immediately and personally, and that's why the start of the whole beef was, hey Brendan, like, yes, thank you for apologizing to me, but like, can you do it on air, because you lied about me on air. Can you do that on air? And that was at the time I remember thinking that was kind of stubborn of Ariel, but now I see why, because Brendan has done some things to me, even when I was his friend, where he'll kind of like badmouth me. And the continuation of that story that I was telling about going over to his house for MMA was, there was this big dramatic evening and he fired Malik, and him and Chappelle weren't paying attention to the fights the whole time. And it was like really awkward, because you invited me over and my wife's here and like she's asking questions about MMA and the fighters and I'm trying to answer. And then he goes on Fighter and the Kid on Monday and does this whole bit about how much me and her were talking, and like, oh my God, dude, they're talking. Oh my God, I just wouldn't shut up. And like, I missed the fights because I'm like, what the fuck? Like, dude, we were talking a very normal amount. I have a girl here who doesn't watch MMA, who's curious about it and engaging with what's on TV. She maybe misheard you say something and asked a question that you thought was stupid, but it was like, Like, I'm like, I could never imagine, like, if the roles were reversed, like inviting Brendan over with his wife and then being like, oh my God, Joanna just wouldn't shut up. Oh my, it was crazy. Like, right? And I posted this clip to the Fighter the Kid subreddit maybe yesterday, and like, it was very validating actually, because I'm like, am I fucking crazy here? Or like, is this rude as fuck? And it was cool to see people chime in. There's a lot of very reasonable people in the subreddit, which again was one of my mistakes, because I was kind of assuming that this vocal minority who came after me on my own social media page was representative of the entire subreddit. I made the mistake of assuming all these guys are crazy assholes, when in reality, it's probably 10%, 10%. And most of the guys are there to have fun and be lighthearted, and they don't take it off the Reddit and actually harass other people in that universe, on a different social media platform. But, back to what I was saying about Brendan, is he kind of, he has this way of doing this, and that's a long-term pattern where he'll say underhanded shit. And Ariel's this great example of it, where it's like, dude, just fucking own up to what you said. The issue that he couldn't back down from is that he did in fact lie about the way that this Showtime story happened. And it's very difficult for him to admit, like he'll admit like, oh yeah, I flubbed up, or I made a mistake inadvertently. Okay. It's very difficult for him to admit that he lies, because he is in fact a pathological liar. And to sort of admit one lie is to admit all the lies. You know what I mean? So he's very careful. And that's where like the things kept escalating. This is why Brendan is so unsuccessful at repairing his image, is because he can't face things head on, And I guess like when the shit went down and I wanted to kind of like express my story to Chang's and PF Chang's subreddit, and some of the moderators were reaching out to me on Instagram, I made the decision to do this MMA to not get attention. A lot of people go, oh, he wants attention. Part of it is like, I could take ownership for being wrong. I was wrong to assume incorrectly that you guys were all like this. And, I threatened to dox somebody at one point, which I wasn't going to follow through with. But I take ownership for all the things that I've done and how they came across. And even associated with Brendan, I take responsibility for that and the result of a lot of people not giving me the benefit of the doubt as far as who I am as a person.
Got
right?
you.
And I think as a man, you have to take accountability. And if you don't, like, the problem that you're trying to avoid is only going to get worse. And that's what we see with a lot of these issues with Brendan.
Okay. Well, that's a lot of information to unpack right there. Like, I got to ask you this question. Are you hyped up on pre-workout, or are you on Adderall or something right now? You are shot, or are you always like this?
No, actually, you know what? I did take a microdose earlier.
Okay,
but no,
right. Makes sense.
I'm not high. I don't think.
So you bring up this stuff about basically, throwing his friends under the bus, and the first thing I could think of is Gringo Papi. When I watched that special of his, it felt like he was throwing everyone under the bus. His wife, like the Mexican culture thing and everything like that. It was just bizarre to listen to when I was watching that special. So this is a regular thing he does. Did you get that vibe with the Gringo Papi?
Dude, that's such an amazing point, because yes, and I took inventory of his entire act recently, and we could even include the Gringo Papi. Like, every joke that I've ever heard him say follows this format of, look at how much other people suck. Look at how stupid this person is. Look at how incompetent this person is compared to me, who's just a normal, cool bro trying to get through life. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that I expressed privately that I took issue with him was a part of his act in which he makes up this story about me sending shitty dick pics, but it's not even just that. It's like the whole setup is like 8 different insults about me. He'll go, I'm going to start off the show like this. Now, keep in mind, none of this is grounded in reality whatsoever. So, like, imagine you're my friend and you decide to do this bit all of a sudden, and like, I'm in the crowd, like your friend's working for you in the crowd, taking pictures of you for social media. So he has to listen to this whole set. It's almost like a weird form of hazing or bullying. Mm-hmm. But he goes, I'm going to start off the show like this. Mark, you knew I was going to do this. My boy Mark, he's recently single. I'm not. Excuse me, Luana. My wife's over here going. Well, she was very not happy about the fact that he was going, he's recently single. But he goes, he's recently single. He's on all these dating apps. And he goes, but the setup is, he goes, Mark's here. He does all my social media and security, but he's always on his phone. So if you want to kill me, now's your chance. So, like, I suck at my job. I'm always on my phone. Like, Brendan's going to die because of me. I broke up because I'm not good at relationships. I'm single, and now I'm on all these dating apps. He goes, what? He's on Bumble, Tinder, Grindr, so I'm gay in this app. Ha ha ha. He goes, and he throws in, he's on steroids, just like as like a throwaway line. It's like, is that inherently funny? But also like he takes testosterone, you know? So like it's also, you know, hypocritical, but it's all a setup to be like, he's dating this one girl, Tiffany. He's been on 2 dates with her, and he's like already in love, you know, and he wants to send her a dick pic. And I say, don't be gay, man. Show me that thing. And, you know, in the joke, I show him this dick pic, and he goes, it was the worst dick pic I've ever seen in my life, Houston. It was taken head on like a great white shark. It's all blurry. Like he starts like ripping on this fictional dick pic that I've taken, you know, and then to set up how awesome he is at dick pics, it's like this whole 5-minute joke. Like when I take it, he goes, how you going to take a bad dick pic, fellas? You're the director of the movie, Bubba. When I take a dick pic, I get oiled up. I get studio lighting. Like I'm Steven Spielberg in this bitch. And like, you know, it has all these.
Wow. So basically everything that we're seeing, like we did a whole stream on Rip It on the Gringo Papi because it baffled the hell out of me. Listen, I'm not trying to shit on Schaub here. That's not what I'm trying to do over here because I don't know him.
It's accurate. But the whole theme of his thing is to shit on other people, and it's all based on lies.
That's wild. That is pretty wild. By the way, if you're just jumping in, we got hella Mark Harley here. We're talking a little Brendan Schaub activity. Let's just dive right into it then. So he hires you. He says he wants you to have a podcast right off the bat. Is that what he said, or like what was like the job description?
Like right off the bat, but he was kind of like, because he's starting this Thiccc Boy Studios thing, and I think like in retrospect, like he kind of framed it as like, I really want to help you out and like help, you know, if you made $1 million off podcasting, nothing would make me happier. But like he did allow me to use his resources.
Okay.
He connected me with the people he knew at Malka. Like they made the logo, the design, the sizzles, all these different things. Like, but I think strategically what he was going for, because he was kind of like, oh, you can do a fitness podcast. Now, in my mind at the time, I'm like, I don't really want to do like a fitness podcast. You know what I mean? I have other interests outside of that. It'd be a part of that, you know, but now I like what I did with my podcast, but in retrospect, I think he was kind of like, he wanted me to have a podcast. He wanted Chappelle to have a podcast. He wanted David Lucas to have a podcast. He's trying to build something like Barstool, right? Okay. Except that he doesn't really know how to cultivate talent. And I think like, you know, after that, I ended up working for him because I showed up a couple times, like when somebody couldn't make it, to do like behind the scenes social media stuff. And he was like impressed with how thorough I was because, you know, this is what I do. So I'm going to get good content behind the scenes. And when Shrimp could no longer work there, and Brendan says he fired him, but Shrimp got another job, he took me on, and I just said, you know what, I'll take the same pay, whatever, let's just jump in, and I'm going to show you how good I am and how much of a hard worker I am and how I can knock this out of the park, thinking that, you know, eventually I'll get rewarded for this. But it kind of seemed like the harder I work, the shittier he treats me.
Really?
He gave me a podcast and then did not promote it on his personal Instagram one time. Like, just some things you're kind of like, if you were like trying to start a network, like, the lack of kind of strategic vision for everything never helped me book a guest, never promoted it on his Instagram, you know, maybe talked about it once on The Fighter and the Kid after a year of me doing episodes every week. In a lot of ways, I felt like, you know, so that was one of the first times where I'm like, he's kind of promising me to be this like mentor figure with a black belt in podcasting, but like, he didn't give me any help whatsoever. Now I could figure it out on my own, but it was like, I kind of felt like I was a little bit thrown to the bus after, you know, or thrown like to the wolves, so to speak, or thrown to the bus when, you know, because he's just focused on his own shit. You know? And that's fine. But like, you know, again, it just didn't quite match up with what he promised at first. That's all.
Yeah, I get it. A shout out here and there doesn't hurt anybody. It's not going to hurt him in any way. So who funds all this? Like, he's got this big Thiccc Boy studio over here. Is this the rumor's true? Is it daddy money? Like, what's going on over here? Is this the stand-up comedy money? How is he affording this? That's a good question.
I'll be careful to say I don't know what his financial situation is, or that I don't have any evidence that his dad funds this stuff. But let me just say this: at first, it seemed like a ridiculous idea to me that he would be funded by his dad or underwritten by his dad. But like now, when I look at how much money they must be taking in, it's hard to picture Thiccc Boy in and of itself. And that's a separate entity from like The Fighter and the Kid and the Golden Hour, because, you know, I think those shows make more money. But like the amount of views he gets, like and you know, especially per the subscribers, and it's kind of trending in the wrong direction versus like what he used to get on Below the Belt and stuff like that. And I think he thought that he could kind of just leave Showtime and get the same exact views, but that hasn't been the case for, I think, a variety of reasons. And to me, if I were getting those kind of numbers, I would learn how to produce a podcast myself and do it out of my house. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
to be profitable. I don't know why you need a whole industrial space. And like there might be 3 other people in the room when we do Schaub Show. Like, for a show that gets like 35 to 50,000 views a show, like, it's just a waste of resources. You got Chin there, you got Casey's producing it, editing it. I'm there like transcribing you know, quotes during the thing and making thumbnails sometimes and doing the title and description. It's like, why do, like, this is not a 3-man job. I'm sorry. But like, if I was him, I'd be like, I'm going to see, like, I'm going to, you know, because I learned how to edit in Photoshop while I was there. You can pick up skills pretty easily. And then, you know, if you're willing to put that time into doing your own thing, I'm just the type of guy, like, I wouldn't want to be in charge of other people doing stuff that I had no fucking clue how to do. And I think that ends up costing him because he has to hire a lot of employees and pay a lot of talent, you know, to come in and do these shows. And I assume it's a lot of overhead, you know. So that's kind of my take. That's as far as I can go. I can't speculate, but like, some things recently, some signals to me, because he just kind of acted, he made some weird financial decisions where he'd like promise me one thing, you know, I'm going to get you $1,000 per month for ad reads for your podcast. Then, you know, a couple months later, he's like, oh, you must have misunderstood me. I meant $1,000 combined for you and Chappelle. So it's only $500 a month for you. Like, he did that like on 2 separate occasions. I'm like, whoa, okay. Once I get, and I already felt gaslit, but now like, nobody does that twice in a row. Nobody goes like, oh, well, this was supposed to be split between, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? So he seems to be finding weird ways to like cut costs, and you can kind of see that, and that he's not being totally straightforward about it. And, you know, that would indicate that money isn't totally abundant, and he's finding a way to get in the black. That's
okay. Well, that makes sense over here. And he had you in charge of his social media. Everyone is calling you his handler. Were you technically Brendan Schaub's handler? What's this about?
No. I did a lot of his social media, but handler implies that I had some sort of leverage over him, like, or some sort of final say. But like, this is a guy who doesn't fucking listen to anybody. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to do his own thing. I can, and even to the point where I go, look, it would be better for you if I had some sort of control, or if you gave me permission to be hypercritical of you, because I think that's actually my biggest asset, is to look at something and come in and be like, you want the fucking God honest truth about this? I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm not here to shit on you, but like, you know, I can break down what you're doing wrong in my limited areas of expertise, social media being, I'm not, you know, the foremost expert, but like, I have my take on things, and I've kind of experimented with various things to get where I'm at. And I have my tricks up my sleeve. And I think, you know, one of the things wrong with Brendan and his Instagram, and why he's really frustrated trying to get new followers, because he's been stuck at 1.2 million, you know, he says for like 6 years, because he bought a bunch of followers probably, but like, he just doesn't focus on good content. He thinks he's entitled to likes and views and all this stuff. And it's like, the answer is always, as I'm sure you know, if your views started declining or whatever, like, you would think about this, but I'm sure you already think about it. You think about how to deliver the best fucking show you possibly can, given your resources every single week. And Brendan kind of takes this attitude of like, why am I not getting this? I'm going to hire a new person and like underpay them, but expect the world, and kind of have like somebody who's on call 24/7 to post, but they also need to do like strategic thinking for me. Like, he's, you know, he undervalues everyone else. So like he kind of alternately like handler is almost like, oh, that would be a much more powerful position. You really treated me like an assistant, you know, who he occasionally went for to ideas and for editing, and he trusted me to do certain things that he wouldn't trust other people. But like, there was no, I had no veto power over his decision-making process, right? And even like, I could have told him, but I felt like my job could be in jeopardy, because the few times we did have a dust-up where I told him he's wrong, he doesn't like being told he's wrong ever. So Joe Rogan is right. He does need a handler, but he needs somebody who almost has like contractual power to veto his decisions, because Brendan strategically rids anybody from his circle who will contradict him.
Okay.
You know, he's not a guy who likes people. like, you know, it's whatever the famous leadership style, like you think of Steve Jobs and he's putting people in a room and he kind of invites this, like, you can disagree with him if you back it the fuck up, you know. And I think a lot of great leaders are like that. They want to put the best minds in a room and, you know, really go at each other and see who has the best ideas. And Brendan is kind of like, I want to get a bunch of people in a room to fucking blow me about how cool I am.
Okay, this is a lot to unpack over here. So
I mean, it's my honest take. That's my honest take.
And this whole persona that he has, where he's always acting gay. What's this about? Where he's always like, I don't know. He's very flamboyant. Is this a shtick or is this how he really is?
I mean, I saw something recently that was like, you know, either it's the best troll job in the world or this dude's, you know, fucking guys out on the road. But like. It was some screenshot from a Reddit confessional. I mean, look, like I wouldn't be saying this, you know, number one, he starts gay rumors about people regularly, you know, and I can think of multiple people off the top of my head who I'm close with where I'm like, dude, that's not fucking cool. And they're not gay. And you're not citing any evidence. You didn't walk in on them having sex with men. But like, I'm thinking of 3 individuals specifically, 2 of which have high profiles, another of which is a very wealthy man who actually like spent a lot of money showing us a really fun weekend when we went to his town, and he was like a fan. So he's like, and I had known him, and he treated Brendan very well. And the guy, he turns around, he's like, you know, it's a gay guy, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? But it's almost like anybody he feels threatened by when they leave the situation, like, you know, that guy's gay, but he's not citing anything. He's not going like, oh yeah, you could tell, or I saw a grinder on his phone or something. Like if you're going to say that, you better come with some evidence. But I wouldn't do that either way because it's unethical. You can't just like, if you think that guy's in the closet, you want to out him secretly. But if he's not in the closet and you're wrong, like you're spreading a false rumor about his sexual orientation, it's not cool. So add that to the fact that he, you know, Luana, do you want to come sit over here?
Yeah, okay. Bring her on. The more the merrier. I would. This is your wife, right? Yeah, bring her on. I want to get her opinion on this as well. If she wants to come on.
Yeah, you can come and chime in. And she's like, no, I don't look hot enough.
Neither do I.
So, point, and I know I'm coming out hot, but it's like, look, dude, I wouldn't be speculating at all if this person didn't speculate about some of my close friends and other people who have high profiles who I think Brendan's threatened by, where it's like, you know, I wouldn't ever speculate even privately on somebody else's sexuality, like, because that's the easiest rumor to start about a man is that he's, you know, like, oh, that guy's gay. I hate that shit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's fun. Like, you know, you can call me big gay line, like that's jokes, right? But like, I'm talking about like actually like, hey, you know, this guy's gay. That's not cool.
Yeah.
And when you couple that with the fact that he's obsessed with penises and like talks about it on stage, like I've got this big, you know, gill covered steroid dick according to him. And, you know, he's right about one part of that, but you know, it's just weird that he's talking about it on stage. Dicks are a frequent topic of conversation in his act, in his podcast. It's like, he just can't stop talking about it. And he lacks the self-awareness to realize how that comes across. Like he thinks it comes across ironically because we all take for granted that you're so straight. Well, you're also obsessed with fashion. Mm-hmm. You also, you know, wear makeup to cover your blemishes sometimes. Like there's, you know, people speculate about Botox. I don't really know, but it's like, the guy is obviously very vain. And I'm saying that as a vain man,
well,
you know.
Well, to clear things up, I just want to make sure your dick does not have gills, right? Correct?
My dick does not have gills.
Okay, good.
Just some veins.
That's what everyone was wondering.
Yeah. It was a big question. But he says on stage, he's like, come on, man, show me that. Don't be gay. Show me that dick pic. Yeah. You know, it's probably got gills, and the implication that because I'm on steroids, you know, I have gills on my cock.
So and you did make mention that he is actually on TRT as well, right? He's taking some supplements or he's taking steroids
on TRT, and I would get him. A lot of people go like, "You're a steroid dealer." I don't deal steroids to him, but I know how to get them. And then I would actually give them to him as a gift. But then, like, you know, you kind of do one thing for somebody, and then they're like, "Hey, can I get more of that? Can I get more of that? Can I get more of that? It's like,
yeah,
okay, now I've given you like, you know, $1,000 worth of Primobilon over the course of the year, like, but you know, it's just another aspect of like his own entitlement, you know, that he kind of like everything's like you almost like you feel like you owe him something, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is a fucking subscription service. Like I'm paying out of this from my own pocket, and I don't have a lot of money. You know, but yes, to answer your question, he's on steroids and then making fun of people for being on steroids.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It's always like, you know, he's I say this. I'm going to turn the light on, by the way, because the sun's going
for it.
But
Yeah, if you're just jumping in, we're live with Mark Harley. We're talking about the whole Schaub situation over here, and it's pretty wild, man. You're all over the place right now. So
and then turn off overhead. Sorry. Thank you.
How many cats you got? I noticed you have a cat climbing thing. Is that for?
We do. I have 4 cats actually.
4 cats. Oh, okay. There you go. Who cleans the litter box? You or the wife?
Mostly my wife. She's laughing.
Okay.
If I wanted to, you know.
Yeah. Are they homeless? Those cats? Are those cats homeless, or they have homes? Correct.
Yeah. They do have a home now, but I always adopt. Always get rescue cats. And actually, the first cat of this bunch, the oldest cat, Spider, I bought from a homeless man when I was on a run. So I saw this like homeless guy hanging out on a hot summer day with this cat. Like a tiny little kitten. I said, "Hey, can I get that off you? Can I buy it?" So I like ran home and like got $20 and bought it off him. And so yes, Spider was in fact a homeless cat when I got him.
Okay, now let's get to the good stuff over here. I mean, not good for you, but the juicy stuff. So you find out that Brendan Schaub says, "Listen, this is not going to work out." So how did this all go down? You were handling his social media. He didn't like the performance. Like, what was going on?
There was a series of events that I would chalk up to like, look, nobody can underperform for him because he has no performance metrics. Mm-hmm. Like that would imply that what kind of job you're supposed to be doing and like that he can evaluate it objectively from a technical standpoint. So like, everything was done on time. I would do what he asked. Like maybe I'd make a mistake here and there. Like sometimes he'd pass on something that was misspelled and I'd post it like I'm driving home and he's, texting me for the 4th time today to post something, and I'm like trying to post it as soon as possible, and I misspell it. He'd always get super mad, especially if like Joe Rogan saw it or something, he'd lash out. But it really came down to a few incidents where I disagreed with him about certain things, and he kind of elevated it over the top because he can't back down. There was, one time for Tiger Thick, he was like we blew up over he asked for something that I couldn't have gotten like the next day, and I couldn't go back and get it. He's like, "Did you guys get videos of the winner who were there last night?" I'm like, "No, but you didn't ask for that." And he's like, "God, fucking not one of you." Like he kind of doubles down, and like it's very classic him. He'll ask for things after the fact, right? And you go, "I can't get it now," and then he'll continue to criticize you. And you're like, "Dude, if you wanted this so bad, you should have asked for it." And then it'll kind of escalate to like him insulting you for other parallel things. He likes to shift the goalpost and kind of, deflect and turn it into a different conversation about, how shitty you are at something else. There was a few moments like that. And the most recent one that actually led to my firing was I couldn't come for a Monday. I was in Las Vegas with my wife, and this whole time I was traveling on the road with her like 7 days a week. I was traveling on the road with Schaub, literally working 7 days a week for him. Supposed to do his security. I'm on call when I'm home to do his social media. It was like my whole life was like working for this guy because he doesn't have any boundaries, and so he texts me at 11 p.m. to check his DMs, and so like it was around the clock stuff, and I kind of thought that it would lead toward some sort of, I'm gonna recognize this at the end of the year and give you a pay increase, or I'm going to, promote you or something, or give you more responsibility, or pay you the same rate and cut down your hours. But as I mentioned earlier, it kind of only led to more conflict and kind of being devalued. And the final thing I'll just repeat was I was in Vegas and I couldn't come in on Monday for the Schaub show. Now, the Schaub show is under the Thiccc Boy network. I didn't know this at the time, but he had taken me off of the Thiccc Boy payroll, which is one of 3 sources that I get paid from. So I got paid from the Fighter and the Kid, I got paid from the Golden Hour, and I get paid from Thiccc Boy. Now, if I'm not working for Thiccc Boy, then I shouldn't be doing Food Truck Diaries or the Schaub show, but I was still expected to do that. At the time when he reprimanded for me not being able to come in, I had called one of my coworkers and said, "Hey, could you cover the duties that I'm supposed to do in the room?" They said yes. I did that ahead of time. I contacted Schaub ahead of time, and I still got reprimanded in a way where I felt like it was just a little bit like, "Hey, I didn't even take the week off after Christmas. Like I haven't had a fucking day off, in so many months, and Even when everyone was supposed to have a week off after Christmas, I still came in 3 days out of the week. Like, so this idea of like, even if it was like a big fuck up and you had to hire somebody else, it's like, yeah, I haven't had a day off in forever. So he it was like, man, I don't know, this is not good. Like, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, he just kind of made it seem like, oh, like you're really putting me in a tough position, like by having to have my coworker, come in the room and write down some quotes and write an episode description. Like, it was like I basically missed an hour of work. And then, the rest of my job that day was just going to be editing the fighter and the kid reels, right? Because I also I became an editor, and that's another thing too, where that's a more advanced skill. But he kind of like, he was by the time I left, he was paying me less than when I started for basically becoming almost a full-time editor. So I told him, hey, look, and this was in the text that I said I wasn't going to come in. I said, hey, I can't come in at 9. I got it covered. I'm going to edit like all night and get you, a bunch of clips. Don't worry about it. It'll be well ahead of time. And so he's like, yeah, man, just make sure to get those clips on time. Kind of had this attitude, like repeating what I did. I'm like, I just fucking said I would,
Yeah.
So then later I'm driving home from Vegas and like the episode hasn't even come out yet. Chin hasn't even sent me the footage. And he had been arguing with the booker from TFATK in another group text. And so he kind of came in hot, like the guy like kind of told him he was wrong about something, which he didn't like. So he came into this group text and he's like, can you fucking believe this guy arguing about me? Like, and I could tell like, oh God, he's in a bad mood. He's going to take it out on somebody. And he tells me like, Mark, are you on the reels? And I was like, now again, I take credit for like in a normal circumstance, I'd be like, yes, but I go, this motherfucker, like he's never asked this before. He's never asked the night before or before an episode comes out whether or not I'm still editing reels. Because of course I am. I do it every single week, and it's also 6:30 p.m. We've been talking since 9 a.m. Like I also, am I being paid to be on fucking call all day? But the fact of the matter was I hadn't had any of the footage. So Chin chimes in. He's like, I haven't even sent him the footage yet. Like how could he be doing anything? So anyway, I ended up deciding to not text him back for a few hours. Knowing that this was going to piss him off, but kind of I had to do it for myself because I'm like, this guy thinks he can treat me like shit and kind of like that there's no trust. Like I've been working for you 7 days a fucking week and like you're not going to trust me to do what I say. So in my head, I'm like, I'm going to go, I'm going to listen to the episode on the way. I'm going to take notes and then I'm going to go home and I'm going to send him a reel when I get home. Like when the first reel is finished, I'm going to send it to him. Now, the way that the fighter and kid reels work is every editor before me would have one by the next morning, one reel. So I go home, I crank out a reel, high quality reel with captions, and send it to him at 10 p.m. Then I sent another one at 12 p.m. Then I sent another one at 3 a.m. And then I sent another one at 5. So by 9 a.m., I had sent him 5 reels and was working on a 6th. And his answer was like, well, Mark, yeah, unfortunately, we had to hire another editor to like cover you because you wouldn't get back to. I'm like, oh yeah, like because I didn't text you back for 3.5 hours, like you panicked and had to like, and you already got the one thing that was due. So that kind of escalated. And I defended myself saying like, hey man, like this is what you're going to focus on because you haven't looked at any of the reels. You haven't told me if you liked them. I gave you 5 times as much work as was expected. It was delivered early and you're fixating on the fact that I didn't text you back for a few hours. Maybe you have your priorities out of whack. So obviously he didn't like that, fired me in the group text, said he was going to pay me for the month of February, has not done that. And,
so still nothing.
I got $600 severance out of this situation.
Wow. All right. Well, okay. So I have over here, so we have, like I said, we have some friends in the, this whole MMA world over here and some connections that are close to Brendan. So yeah. I do have their side of the story and I would like to just kind of navigate around what was sent to me and just get your thoughts on this because listen, there's always 2 sides to every story, right? That's what they say. Yeah. Okay. So they said, okay, he got fired because he failed to manage one of the social media clips channels. He was responsible for 6 months. Now, is that true? 6 months, they said that you failed to manage.
What channel was that?
A social media clips channel. So I don't know exactly what channel that is. So you're not aware of this, correct?
No.
Okay. He was missing work all the time.
Ha 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 ha.
So that's false.
Ha ha ha. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Did I miss one single day? I didn't miss a single day. And the social media clips channel, what? Like, you know, there was maybe he had like my job was to cut reels, and that's what I did. And again, like, you know, so what channel was that?
Okay,
so,
that's all they're saying to me. Now, this is from their camp. Okay, showing up late, just all around being super unreliable. So showing up late, have you showed up late?
Late for what?
I guess for work, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. No, well, that's the thing is like, I actually told him after we'd had a discussion, and again, none of this was like ever said to me, if I was late to work, we have a start time, like there's a loose start time. You know, again, we were talking about a guy like Brendan who would show up. I remember one time, like we came in at 9 a.m. for the shop show. Maybe sometimes I'd be a few minutes late to shop show or something like that. But Brendan would like, you don't know when he's going to show up. One time he came at like 10:30 for a 9 a.m. show. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, you know, without warning anybody. If I'm late, I'm going to tell you. And the idea that I'm showing up late at any time, I'm an editor. I work from home. I run social media. I almost can't be late. And also I'm working around the clock. So like, I mean, thank you for showing me this because this is the most insane fucking rebuttal I've ever heard in my life.
Well,
the idea that I missed a single day of work, name a single day of work where I even called out sick. That did not happen. I did not miss any work. This was the first time I wrote it in advance. I got it covered. And one time I walked out of a fight companion where like because we'd had this argument prior in the day that like led to this moment where he's being rude to me, like during the fight companion. He's like, Mark, stop talking. You can't like, and I was like, hey dude, I'm out. Like, because you're having me sit here like during this fight companion. It was the second fight companion of the week. It was the 7th day I've worked in a row. It was the 4th week that I'd worked 7 days. And like, it was like, I don't need to fucking be here. And Brendan, that was into, yeah. And I was working, my wife's filling me in. I was working months at a time. You know, like every single day. So the idea that like I was unreliable. Oh yeah, I was unreliable. I picked you up to go to the airport and dropped you off every time. Like why would you trust somebody to be unreliable? Wow. You know, when that was the case. And again, the fact that he didn't say what social media clips channel, what was that? You know?
Well, I'll do some digging. I could let you know actually, but there's some more here, and I'm actually glad your wife is chiming in too because this is two people.
Like, if I was doing a bad job for 6 months, nobody said anything, nobody brought anything up, you know. And also like he'd do things like before I was starting, he's like, oh, do you want to like do something for my channel? Like he always has these like vague projects going around that like, you know, he'll be like, oh, you can start this. So like one of the things like he wanted me to start like cutting clips for his YouTube channel, but it's like he'll kind of make a vague, he's not going to increase your pay, but he'll be like, oh, I'll give you a percentage of my YouTube. But like, it's not like anything was ever in writing. So I don't even know. I have no idea what the fuck he's referring to, but like, How could I have failed to do a job for 6 months? Okay, I'll go ahead.
Okay, there's more. So, and this is actually supposedly from Schaub, okay? They said that he said he needed to talk to you and you went crazy. Screamed at Schaub and hung up on him. So then there's more. There's more. Do you want to rebut to this or you want to keep going?
The rebuttal to that is I've never had a phone conversation with Schaub since getting fired. He fired me in text. I haven't talked to him. I haven't talked to him since he texted me and tried to meet up with me. Like it's honestly, it's getting my heart rate going because I'm like, this guy is just lying. He's a pathological liar and he's proving that right in, you know, like, you know, with these quotes. I haven't been on the phone with him even since the day he fired me. We didn't even talk on the phone. He fired me in text, tried to get me to meet up with him in text, which I ignored, and I went crazy on him. Like that is a complete fabrication.
Okay, here's more to it. So apparently Callen called. Hold on, I want to make sure because I don't want to dox this person. Okay, so apparently Callen called and said, hold on. Okay, so he says you lost your shit on Callen, screamed at Callen too, and hold on, and hung up on him as well, on Brian Callen. Is that true?
Yeah.
I was here when that phone call happened, and nobody screamed.
Nobody screamed. Okay.
I I was here when this phone call happened and nobody screamed.
Okay, so there you go.
Nobody screamed. I was here. I heard it.
All right.
It's just insane. Callen called me repeatedly, and we'd had a conversation the day before. We had a normal conversation where he's trying to convince me to not go on this shit. Like, oh my God, this is just insane. He was trying to get me to like not go do this Reddit MMA, and he was kind of making things seem like, like, hey, he's giving me this philosophical angle of like, and I can show you these text messages where he's like trying to get me on the phone, and I picked up, and then I sensed something was off, and I hung up right away. And he's like, hey man, I lost him. Like, yeah, like it just, I'm good, man. It just seems like you're a little bit too desperate to talk to me. Like, I'm not interested in being manipulated or having my mind change right now. He eventually persuaded me to get on the phone, and then he starts talking to me, and like I could tell he's doing this angle of like, Mark, I really want you to think about this. It's not going to be good for your future, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh yeah, like it was in response to him implying that this was like about revenge. And I'm like, oh, speaking about my experiences is revenge? That makes no sense. That's like, like somebody beats you up and it's like, hey man, you don't want to get revenge by like speaking about it in public. No, revenge is going and slashing that person's tires. Everything I've said here is a matter of fact, and I will put all that information out. I've never had I haven't talked with Brendan on the phone for what, 5 weeks? I mean, we don't even talk on the phone at all. Like we would either text or see each other in the person. I can't remember the last time I'd even be on the phone with him. So like, it's just such a weird, complete fabrication. And then the idea that I like yelled at Callen, even like I raised my voice a little bit to be assertive, to be like, hey dude, here's the thing. We're talking about a guy who's a narcissistic, pathological liar who starts gay rumors about my friends, who fucks people over financially, who treats me like shit, who goes on the road and tells like weird, lied, made up stories. So I'm talking to him like this. I'm like, because he's like rebutting. I'm like, hey, what's not cool is you trying to convince me that this guy who does A, B, C, D, and E is a good guy and that I shouldn't talk about it publicly. Click. And I go. I said, hey man, like I knew you were going to fucking try to manipulate me. Fuck off. And then I blocked him. Okay. So like that's being unhinged. I talked to him for like 40 minutes, and it was very calm. And then when somebody just keeps going, it's like, hey dude, like you're not hearing me. Schaub's a piece of shit and you're fucking enabling him.
I think Brian is a good person who just tries to like keep it calm and he doesn't understand.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Maybe he's too close to the whole thing to see how Brendan really is. But I don't want to talk anything bad about Brian. I don't think he tried to manipulate you. I think he just tried to, make this all go away and for everybody to be like, for this to not happen. But Brendan's a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, like I don't even know how Brian represented the conversation, but it's like I gave Brian a lot of my time and a lot of my patience, but there's a limit to when you're trying to convince me to not. It's like, oh, you're trying to persuade me to not speak my truth about my experience to people who are interested in it. What's your motivation there?
Well, here's the thing that doesn't line up with what you guys are saying here, and this might hit you off guard. So apparently this source tells me Callen goes to Brendan and is like, dude, I honestly don't know what play you have here other than to fire this guy. This is Brian Callen saying to Brendan. This is the story coming from the Schaub situation over here. Does that sound weird or does that sound accurate?
Brian
stepping in and saying, hey, we got to get rid of this guy?
It may be privately, because when I didn't get back to him, one of the things, and I'll send you all the text messages that I had between these guys, when I didn't respond to them for like 3.5 to 4 hours. They make this huge deal about it, like, oh my God, I don't know what we can do. Mark's not, like, it was like, the sky is falling. Mark isn't editing a reel for social media. We have to go to and then Callen's in the group text, like arguing with me almost more forcefully than Brendan was the next day. Like, so I'm not saying Brian wouldn't do this, like, because, and actually at some point before, Brian was actually like, he called me up. The first time I had a big argument with Brendan was like, you know, you don't even want to work there. Like fuck Thiccc Boy Studios. Like you don't want to work there. Like it's not, you know, like this, you're above this job. So like Brian also could have, giving him the benefit of the doubt, been talking to Brendan like, yeah, like this is a good thing for everybody. But in the moment, yes, Brian was actually pissed that like during, again, this was a month or 5 weeks ago when I actually was fired, that like he calls him up and is like, or sorry, like they seem to be talking off, you know, in a private text, because like, I think Brendan like elevated Brian's worry about the situation, because Brian, like suddenly Brendan's worried about, he's never texted me before. Like an episode drops about clips in the entire fucking whatever since I've known him, you know, and he, also, I haven't, you know, going back to the clips, I haven't known how to edit for 6 months. Like, I haven't even been able to use Premiere for 6 months. So how could I not be like doing clips for a channel when like I didn't even know how to edit for I learned how to edit 3 months ago. But anyway, yes, the Brian thing would actually make sense, because he seemed really like, oh my God, Mark, can't you admit that you're wrong? Like, you know, in this text message the next day, I'm like, no, I'm not going to fucking admit that I'm wrong, because all I did was not text you back and you got the work. You know, and I also said, if you paid this other editor, tell me the amount of money that you paid him, and I'll pay him right fucking now, because that's the only thing that you're able to cite. What's up, Luana? No, I don't need to calm down, because this is representative of how upset I am actually to hear that like whoever you got this from, like it's a complete fabrication. It's very telling, because again, you know, if he could stick to the facts, it wouldn't look flattering. And that's why I'm willing, like, hey, release all your screenshots, release any fucking information you have about me not posting to a social media page, not making clips for a social media page before I knew how to use Premiere. You know, it just doesn't make any sense factually. So listen, that's all.
I just want to make it very clear. I'm not taking a side in this. This is just something that was sent to me. As soon as we announced that we having you on, this got sent my direction. They did say it was 8 hours that you didn't respond to them. That's what they're saying. So that's not true too, right?
I can also send you screenshots of that. And actually, here. Luana, what's up, dude?
I was just saying that was when we were driving back from Vegas. I was in the car the entire time this was going on.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Mark had taken not even a day off. It was just like, I'm still in Vegas. This is the first time Mark and I did something in months, because Mark is always working for Brendan the entire time. Brendan is I don't know. He needs constant talking, control, whatnot.
So I don't know if you can see this, but
hold on, I'll zoom in here. Okay, so you got to. It looks like it has that blur effect on, so I think that's what's messing it up a little bit.
Damn it. Hold on. Let me take the effect. Can I take the blur effect off?
Yeah.
Probably. Okay. Because I'm going to show you. It's so funny. 8 hours. Change background. Okay. No background.
There we go.
So I don't know if you can see. Can you see the numbers there for when the episode was sent and when the first reel was sent?
Okay, it says 10:16 p.m. I see.
And what does the thing before that say?
Okay, Spider and Kid episode. It's a little blurred, so I can't really see what that says. Fighter and Kid episode 862. Bradley Martin. Okay, it's 6:17. There we go.
So between the episode dropping and me sending a first reel is, as I just showed you, less than 4 hours. 3 hours and 59 minutes.
Ooh. Okay. So there we go. There we go.
Oops.
Smoking gun right there. There is actual evidence.
But hey, yeah, thank you, because everything they fucking said was a lie, dude. Like, you know, and I guess, you know, I hope I hope you know, people can see that like everything I said 4 hours, and this is, you know, roughly what it was. But like, I also had to listen to the fucking episode first, you know, so you can subtract that time of like, how am I supposed to cut a reel without having watched the episode or getting a time code from anybody? You know, so that's the first issue, is that I had to listen to an hour and a half episode, and then from there I sat down, I didn't get home till a couple hours after that. So anyway, I did it as fast as I could. And then I kept working. And the idea that I was, absent for 8 hours is an exaggeration by, that's 100% wrong. Literally.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, chat, make with what you will with that information over there. And I appreciate you fielding, these accusations from the other side. I do want to get both sides of the story because I feel like that's the best way to do this.
Absolutely.
But you're very convincing.
It's very telling because I didn't know what he was like. Schaub hasn't he hasn't tried to talk to me or go oh, well, you were wrong about this one. He's been trying to get me to meet up with him. And so there was no phone call. There's no social media clips channel for 6 months. I haven't been doing my job for 6 months and you didn't fire me. What does that tell you about what you're doing, buddy? Thirdly, we just showed you how your claim of 8 hours was not true in the slightest. So
what do you think? So do you think, it seems like that you are officially parted ways. Would you ever think about working with Brendan ever again, or is that it? Enough's enough with this guy.
Fuck no, dude. He's, as you can see here, what kind of boss is that, right? What kind of boss is that? He lies constantly about everything. There's not a single person in this guy's life who he tells the truth to, his family included. So, let's just think about that. There's not a single person in his life who he tells the truth to. Why would I want to work for a human like that? He simply can't stick to his word. And when I'm telling, the truth about my own experiences, as we just showed, he's out there making wild exaggerations about what really happened because he can't take ownership and has to completely try to discredit me, not with the truth. If I fucked up, I'd admit it. And I told you I could have texted him back, and I that was something that it was like other people go, well, you should have. Yes, you're right. If I wanted to keep my job, I should have. But I put him in a position. I did it deliberately to go, what are you going to choose? Are you going to choose to be mad about me not getting back to you for a few hours? Or are you going to choose to look at the fact that I just gave you 5 times more work than any editor has ever given you by 9 a.m.? And he chose the former.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, listen, we have some alerts from the community over here. You ready to field some questions from the chat?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to let these things fly through here. Let's see what we got.
Super chat.
This is from The Clipper.
Hey, Mark, tell us all about the Yew Neek lawsuit.
Okay, so actually, this is fascinating. I just right before we went live, I noticed that Yew Neek said that he won the lawsuit. I don't know the details behind this, but what are your thoughts on?
I know what the update was. I know he kind of stretched it out, but look, here's what I know. Brendan, after getting accused of he was accused of handing off his number to somebody at this Malka event almost like a year ago to the day of, at this Super Bowl party where he was on a live broadcast with Mike Tyson and some other football players. And on the widescreen shot, you could see him hand this number to somebody or a piece of paper with writing on it. Now, Yew Neek made a video saying, this is evidence he's cheating on his wife. He handed off this piece of paper. Now, I don't know. I'm agnostic about what actually happened. Brendan told me, this is a professional contact, whatever. Who knows? Because in retrospect, again, anything that Brendan says, you can't take at face value because he's a pathological liar. But this is one of many critical videos that Yew Neek has made. Brendan decided he had enough, and that was the final straw. And so he hired. He did a bunch of copyright claims on all his videos that use any sort of footage from, so that wasn't even one of them. I think that got copyright, struck because he was using all ones that had footage from TFATK or other shows. Now, Yew Neek challenged it. And I guess the next step after that, if somebody says this isn't your material, then you're like, no, it's fair use. Then you have to take it to court. I guess YouTube, my understanding of it is YouTube kind of goes, yeah, you guys deal with it now. So Brendan spent several $100,000 apparently fighting this guy in court, and he keeps bragging about I got these beasts of a lawyer, Justin Bieber's guy, and this and that, but it's like, okay, like, but so you can keep this guy's YouTube channel down, because the guy instantaneously made another YouTube channel and has been making videos about Brendan since. So he literally just took, like $250,000 and flushed it down the toilet. And he kept complaining about like, oh, I got another bill for $10,000 to have to file this thing. It just seemed like a giant money pit. And actually that would be really funny if Yew Neek actually won this lawsuit, because Brendan's understanding of it was that this guy's going to have to, he's going to have to take down all his channels. So I'm like, I thought you guys sue this guy, got to take it down, but like he still has a channel. And he's like, oh, well, if we win this lawsuit coming up, and Yew Neek's kept pushing it, pushing the ball down the road a little bit to put off this final judgment. But like, if he did all that and then lost the fucking case, my God, that would be hilarious.
Dude, I couldn't believe it. Right before, I don't know what the story is. I know he's live. He was live before. Right when we went live, I saw it. I was like, fuck, I wish I could watch this and find out. But Yew Neek, if you won, that is pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my. All right, let's see what else we got over here.
Super chat.
Okay, this is from Robert Gould.
Marg, where did Big Gay Lion come from? Welcome to community of homeless cats. We don't matter, B. For real though, you seem like a good guy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's actually been really cool connecting with a lot of people on Reddit. When I came into the AMA and kind of, as I said, came clean and took responsibility for the things that I feel like I need to take ownership of, and that, that I did mistakes that I've made in interacting with you guys or characterizing you guys. And even just like, working for Schaub. Again, that's me. That's my decision. Nobody forced me to do that. So I take ownership of that. And it's been cool to kind of like get messages from people where they go, you can actually see above, like, oh, 6 months ago you're talking shit to me. And then you're like, hey man, my bad. Like I had a different perception of you back then. And I, after the AMA, that's really cool because I can do that too. And I hope people, are able to have this fresh start. Where did BGL come from? It was a nickname that came up pretty quickly. Obviously, it stands for Big Gay Lion. I think it's not a bad nickname at all. Like, I love lions and I love cats, and so it's a catchy one, right? That's the main thing about a nickname. It has to be catchy. It's not too over the top. It's like, oh no, I'm being called gay. Like, and BGL is catchy as an acronym too. So it just stuck.
There you go. And by the way, there is an update in the chat. It does look like Yew Neek actually won the lawsuit, so it looks like it actually is true. Ladies and gentlemen, one for the boys over here.
Hey.
Oh my God.
Schaub just got bent over and fucked in the ass by Yew Neek. Like, how did that feel? How does that feel, Brendan? You just got outed as a liar on this show, and then also Yew Neek fucked you over, took out his dick. He bent you over, pulled out his dick, and fucked you in the ass. I know. My wife said he probably liked that. You're right.
Oh my! He probably. I like your wife. She seems like she's a feisty one.
Yeah, she's a feisty one. All right.
Let's see what else we got over here for Hella Mark.
Super chat.
Okay, this is Esteban.
Marg, what do you think of newly Mexican thirst trap posted on Reddit today? Mystic most bring it up. Very dicey.
Very dicey indeed. Seems like there's probably trouble in paradise, huh? If you and your wife are, have this super healthy marriage and you're just posting like OnlyFans. But now she looks great. I'm not gonna take that away from her, but like, I mean, come on, I don't know what's going on over there, but like, they're not going to post a picture together. Like, it's just kind of funny. I don't know.
Is that the picture? The picture I just pulled up on Instagram over here, where his wife is just all of a sudden naked, like half naked on, like, what is going on?
What's up?
Well, out of a woman's perspective, I just want to say, A, Joanna's great. Whatever happens, she does not deserve it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes if your husband doesn't make you feel good, you got to post shit like this because you got to get it from somewhere else. And I stand 100% behind her that she posted this. She's hot. She should show it. And that motherfucker doesn't deserve her.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, I don't have a problem with her posting hot pictures of herself, but to me, it would indicate, like, because he does not really like posting her. I mean, let's be honest. Like, And so it would seem to indicate something. I don't think it's wrong to read into that post, I guess is what I was saying.
Yeah, he commented, he says, not sure how I got so lucky, but I'll take it. Thanks, life. Thank you for being the rock of our amazing family. Me and the boys are so lucky to have Happy Valentine's Day, boo. But it's a weird caption for this picture, right? It's a little bizarre.
Agreed. So, I'm not
She's not stupid.
She's not stupid, she says.
She knows what's happening.
So yeah, I'll stop there. I could say more, but I'll leave it there. But let's just say there's not too much that you could read into that would be out of bounds, I'd say.
Okay. And by the way, guys, if you're just jumping in, we're talking to Mark Harley. And we're not trying to just completely, I know it looks like we're just shitting on Schaub and this and that. We're just getting a side of a story over here. We're learning this side of the situation, and it's very convincing. I mean, and as the show goes on, it gets worse and worse for Brendan. I'm not going to lie. Like I said, we're not looking to cancel the guy. That's not what we're looking to do over here. But
no,
it's a whole thing,
facts are facts. I mean, facts are facts. And when somebody's out there like, and look, he's been bad mouthing me the whole time. I brought up the example before where, he's like, he's done this 30 times where something happens and he turns around and it's like, makes shit up. Like he was bad mouthing me and Luana after we came over to his house to talk MMA, and he's acting like we just wouldn't shut the fuck up and he couldn't pay attention to the fights when really something else entirely was going on. So he likes to do this, like he swaps characters in a story, like something will happen. Like the dick pic joke about me, it's like, my guess is some dude sent him a fucking dick pic that he's trying to hook up with, and he swapped out me for this dude, like with the shitty dick pic. I swear to God, because it's like, where the fuck does this come from? He doesn't use imagination in any of his fucking bits, and everything is made up. Like he did this in Gringo Papi, like there's this thing that he made up about, he said his wife's a real rattlesnake. First of all, she's a super nice person, and he attributes this line to her, like crap out the uglies, and text back like as if they're in a group chat with like school parents, and like they send a kid on the first day of school and she goes crap out the uggos. He actually said that. So again, he swaps the characters to make something else look bad. He does this whole bit about how his mom or his mother-in-law is like this, mijo, I don't speak English. They're like you kind of picture this, like, this woman who just made it over the border to like cook for her son-in-law. And it's like, the mom-in-law is like this beautiful 50-year-old European-looking woman who speaks perfect English with a slight accent. Like, none of it is fucking real. He says his wife's from Guadalajara, moved here 10 years ago illegally. She was born in Hollywood. What the fuck are you talking about? Like,
oh my God.
It's literally, it doesn't stop. That's what I'm like. That's why I feel like calling this out. It's like, no, dig into anything. Watch the Beige Frequency documentary where he lies about literally every single joke in his fucking special, like, doesn't add up with the timeline. He'll be talking about, watching Ace Ventura, and then UFC 1 comes on. You're like, oh, that doesn't actually work chronologically. Like, I forget what the details are, but there's all these things where, like, he says he's fighting at this venue and it's not true. And all, like, every single fact that he claims is based on a lie or an exaggeration in that special alone. And then, also his whole life at large.
Damn, man, it's crazy. We did a stream and we filleted him for that whole special. We broke down every joke and we just couldn't wrap our head around it. And then afterwards I was like, oh man, I probably shouldn't have done that. That was silly. And now hearing this, I feel great about doing it. It's ridiculous.
Like, I'm with you because I don't want to shit on anybody's like earnest creative efforts.
Yeah.
But then when you look at it in the larger pattern of like, everything he does is a lie to make other people look stupid and himself more, competent or cooler or relatable, right? It's all grandiosity and envy. He has to make him like, he has to like portray this grandiose fantasy version of himself, and then also put other people down that he has this envy towards. But really, I think he despises his family and that, like, in-law side of his family.
Wow.
So.
That's some harsh words right there. I love your honesty, bro. You're my new favorite guy. Like, do you have a podcast coming out too? Like, what's going on? A new podcast?
I do have a few things coming out. I'm going to not do the haters will say anymore because, like, that's my fuck you to Brendan Schaub is like, if I started anything with you, I do not need that moving forward. I don't want to take any of your fucking help or anything you helped me started. And this conversation actually helped me realize all of that this is a guy who, like, again, I know friends who he claims, to have like bought cars for, and then you find out like, oh, the guy paid a down payment and like 3 monthly payments and then stopped paying, you know, and he's like going around like saying like, so all these things, if he does something for you, he'll exaggerate it 10x and then hold it over your head for the rest of your life. So in his head, he probably gave me a huge social media following too. And somebody has claimed this on my Instagram too, like he gave you a following. Like, actually, you know, I work with Isaiah Miranda, you know, 3 to 4 times a week doing these skits. He's got 1 million followers on YouTube and TikTok and all that stuff. So like, you know, the notoriety that I've gotten from this is not all from Brendan Schaub. It helped a little bit, but like he also, you know, he undermined me a lot. So how much does it help if this guy puts you on, but then he talks shit about you in his act, he talks shit about you on his podcast, he talks shit about you to other people. Right. And also like, and because of him, you know, I had this whole community turned against me just for defending him. And, you know, luckily I've been able to face it head on and I think undo a significant portion of the damage. I don't know if that'll ever be completely undone. There'll probably be some people that are there that will never like me, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. But it also goes to show you like, hey, Brendan, if you want to win people over and right this ship of every one of your shows declining in views over time, and you have no fucking idea why, and you want to blame it on YouTube suppression and shadow banning and the haters and, you know, woke liberal tech companies suppressing you. No. It's because you make shitty content. You're a pathological liar. You can't face any of your criticisms. You don't read comments because you're scared of them. And you're too much of a fucking pussy to take accountability for anything in your life. That is the core of all these issues. And you could have gone on the subreddit 5 years ago and been honest with them and actually get them on your side, but you're unwilling to do that, and that's the core of everything. So
I just dropped a poll in the chat. I asked if they're your team Mark or team Brendan. We're gonna find out from the people right now what team they're on. I got another donation over here. They want to speak to you. This is Wildberry.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Couple questions for you, Marg. Have you tried Tiger whiskey? How does that sink smell? I heard Bopper is seasoning it well. Is Bopper gay? I feel like he has shown Brian his dick. He always tell him about dicks and shit.
Okay, a couple of questions in there. So, Tiger whiskey, what does it taste like?
I don't know. I think it tastes pretty good. I think the main, like, I don't have an issue with it. I'm also not a whiskey connoisseur, but like, I think the main thing people have an issue with it who are into whiskey is that it costs too much. Like the price point might be a little bit high for the quality, but that's, I don't like speaking on things that aren't my expertise. I'm not going to shit on it and say it's bad. I've drunk it many times. It's certainly good enough for me. I think the only issue would be people maybe feel like it's overpriced, you know, but it's not like Brendan made it. Like, you know,
yeah.
It's like, I don't know what he does with it, but you know, it's like, oh, I worked so hard to create this company. Did you? You came up with a concept and paid other people. So.
All right. And gay or no? Yes or no? What do you say?
I don't think he's gay. It just wouldn't would it shock anybody in this fucking chat right now watching this live stream if you found definitive evidence that he fucks dudes? He's obsessed with penises and he's constantly snitching on himself in all aspects of his life. Like, okay. Take it for what it's worth. He won't shut up about cock.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to try to, I don't want to keep you here all day. I appreciate your time. We got some more donations, so we'll just do rapid fire answers to these donations, okay? How's that sound? Okay, here we go.
Super chat.
We got the Clipper coming back in.
Mark, are the shows super scripted like word for word?
Okay.
Wait, are the shows super scripted? Like, is TFATK scripted? Is the Schaub show scripted? That implies that Brendan could read or memorize things. So good luck with that.
What is it like when he reads an ad, when he tries to belt out an ad?
I can't even be in the room because it's just like, first of all, like, because I do ad reads, like I do ad reads. I improvise all my ad reads, by the way. When I do one for Happy Hippo, I do one for Oak and Stone. I have a concept in my head and I improvise it. And if I mess up a fucking word, I'm starting over. You know what I mean? Like, because it doesn't take that long. You're doing a minute-long ad read max. Like, why don't you and it's on a piece of paper, like it's written for you, and you're stumbling over the words and mispronouncing things and backing. Like, it's like, as an actor, you know, who goes like, yeah, you should be able to cold read at minimum. You know, I've done auditions, like seeing text for the first time or improvising that are like, to me, if I were a company that sponsored him, I'd be like, what the fuck is this? Why don't you do it right? And you like, and send us that instead of this bullshit. Like, you look like a fucking 8th grader hooked on phonics student, you know, Yeah, and like he, so again, you're trying to sell something, like not sell that you're mentally handicapped. You're trying to sell a product. So if I were the company, I'd be like, no, this is unacceptable.
Okay, there we go. We got a super chat from Lenny Torrance coming in.
What was the extent of Boppa's help with Stephen Bonner and how much of it was exaggerated? Thanks for a great week at Chang's.
Well, I think if you're looking as like, if you want to figure out how much, like to what degree, like Brendan's telling the truth, like this good starting point would be like, take whatever he said and then divide it by 10, like as like the most generous assessment of what probably happened, like if he says, I paid Ray Borg's child, like, like his kid's hospital bills. Okay. If that was $100,000, like, go, 10,000 would be the most that he'd ever do. And then it's probably something more like 2,000. Right. And so whatever help he said he did with Stephen Bonner, he's just a guy who, like, I've seen multiple examples of this where he needs to claim that he helps people. That's the only way that he can get out this narrative that he's a good guy. And that's why there's clips of him being like, I'm a good guy. Well, because you're not. And then you do probably do some charitable giving, but like you're doing it to try to milk this narrative that you're like really altruistic. He's one of the most selfish, greedy people I've ever fucking met. Like, and that's serious, like he's not a generous person. He'll if he's in the mood for it and he wants your mood to match his mood, as I've seen with many people who kind of have these narcissistic traits, it's like he's generous when he's in a fantastic mood or kind of manic or whatever, but like he has no principles. If he says he was going to do something and his mood changes to a different mood than when it was when he was promised something, then he'll just not do it and not feel like there's any tension, ethically speaking, between those two things.
There you go. What we got here? We got
Super Chat.
The Clipper loves talking to you. Clipper coming back in.
Did he make up the bomb threat to his kid's school?
If Brendan said it, it's probably a lie. Like that's really the principle, that you have to live by. It's like, at the time he told me, I would have believed him, but literally like you just heard from a guy who said that I talked with him on the phone, screamed at him and hung up. Like, and that phone call never happened. I haven't talked to him in 3 months, and I couldn't, or like, I haven't been on a phone call with him, and 3 months is just as far as I can think back. Like, it's probably even long enough that I've been on the phone with him. And here's a guy saying, I talked on the phone with Mark and he screamed, like, again, he swapped the characters. I did talk to Brian Callen. He swapped that character out. So maybe he heard about a bomb threat somewhere else and decided that happened to his kids. Like that would be a more likely scenario to me. He hears things and then he swaps the characters to make it like self-aggrandizing, or make himself the victim, right? Like a lot of narcissists have this victim bully complex where they're either like bullying people or they're the victim. And there's no in between. There's no like principled behavior, but he's the greatest victim you've ever met. Like everything is somebody else's fault,
Damn, here we go. I mean, it's saying it all here. Hello, Mark Harley. We got something else coming in here from, this is
Super Chat.
Evil Devil Cuckoo Bot. What?
Mark, hello 100K karma on Reddit in a few days, Harley.
100K karma. You ready? Incoming?
Yeah.
Hold on. It's Papa.
You hear that jam?
Oh my God, Papa's here.
I would never shit on anyone. It's not true. I'm just like Kim Jong-il. I never take a shit because I don't even have an asshole.
Wow, I didn't think you...
That's hilarious. I mean, one of the funniest things too is there's all these clips of him online saying, I'd never shit on anybody. Like, I don't hate, like, I'm not a hater at all. Dude, and you can find examples of it online, but like privately, this dude shits on anybody, like anybody who's doing better than him or not doing better than him. But it's like, he'll shit on guys like Josh Wolf, like who was there for him hardcore when TFATK was in trouble. And he'll kind of like just privately dismiss him. Like, yeah, man, he can't sell tickets. So he's not funny. Like whatever it is, like he has this way of being like, oh, he can't sell tickets. It's like, you can't sell tickets, motherfucker. I've been at shows where there's 12 people in the audience. So the idea that like, yeah, just that he's not a hater, like he's so petty in private, you would believe it. But I'm just saying it's like, just compared to what he claims outwardly, it's a complete contradiction.
Okay. We got
Super chat.
the West coming in.
Hey guys, how's socials?
Yeah, he would ask that. I don't even know if it came across in the screenshots that I shared, but like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, my job, he's like, oh yeah, Mark was so shitty at his job. Oh really? Like, you know, when I was on call for you 24/7, like multiple times a day, how's socials? And you never know what he wanted either. Cause like, do you want like screenshots of like all the most recent posts? Like, but he's basically saying, hey, tell me positive things, tell me positive things, tell me positive things, tell me positive things, tell me positive things. You know, it's all about narcissistic supply for him. So like, cause it's like, hey, do you want me to tell you everyone's shitting on you in the comments? Like, of course not. So it's like basically saying, tell me something good about social media, you know, like I'm a thirsty 12-year-old girl. I don't have social media, but also like, you know, it's like, I don't eat ice cream. I'm just having my assistant spoon feed it to me all hours of the day. Like, when I don't eat it, it just happens to fall in my mouth when my assistant puts the spoon up to it and lets it slide off, you know?
There you go. Thank you, Turpy, for the membership. Right now, the poll has you 92% with 400 plus votes over here. 8%, now 7%, Brendan. So they are really team Mark in the chat.
Super chat.
I'd love to talk to those 7%. Like, what the fuck?
Enjoyed the interview, Mark. Schaub is not even funny. Oh, will you be in a future season of The Witcher?
They want you in The Witcher. Would you ever be the lead in The Witcher?
Yeah, of course. And it's funny because that's like my mom will say stuff like, she's like, you need to take Jason Momoa's roles. You need to take Henry. It's like, I don't think that's how Hollywood works, Mark. It can't be, you know, Mom, I just can't be like, hey, tell Jason Momoa to step aside. There's a new guy in town, you know?
We got one from
Super chat.
KCSHFL.
Hey Mark, how damaging was the Gringo Papi to Schaub's reputation / views?
Well, first of all, it was damaging to his views because he bought several 100,000 views on the Gringo Papi in order to reach 1 million. And that's real, man.
Is that true? Is that a fact?
That's 100% factual. Brendan Schaub bought, I'm guessing, like 300 to 400,000 views, because remember it was around like 600,000, and he wanted it to get like, it's seemingly his only goal, his only metric of success. And it even said that he's like, man, I'm going to kill myself if I don't get to, you know, 1 million views. His only metric of success wasn't about reception. And this is kind of like how he does life in general. Like he'll boil everything down to a number, right? And then get that number wrong, you know? And so when you're talking about like, you know, he'll fudge the number somehow, like, oh, I got 1 million views. You know, he's bragging, oh, it's almost at 2 million views. No, it's not. It's at 1.6 million views. And also, like, you know, 300 to 400,000 views are paid for. And you know what that does to your channel? I don't know if you know anything about the algorithm and how buying followers and views fucks you up, but it fucked his whole channel, because then the algorithm's like, wait, who's watching this? Like, you know, all these people from Pakistan and Eastern Europe or whatever, like, it doesn't give you any information about who your real viewership is, and they don't watch any of your other stuff. So it's really like, that's what ends up suppressing your channel. So he made this huge mistake just to get to 1 million views so he could have the celebration and see it as like a fuck you to the haters that he got 1 million views. Oof. And like, you know, record numbers of downvotes. But you know, the thing, here's one little insight is he goes, man, I thought I was going to do theaters after this. And like, I thought that was going to like elevate me to the next level. Like, he was like really confused as to why the Gringo Papi didn't launch him to like doing theater tours. And it's like, okay, so like, why did you take that for granted? And his agents, by the way, were like, it's not ready yet. Don't put out like, don't even film it. That's what they said. Like, it wasn't like they looked at the special and said, don't release it. They said, your set isn't ready to film. Like, I think you should wait. And he's like, no, I'm not going to fucking wait. Like, I've been doing the same jokes for 3 years. It's like, well, okay, been doing the same jokes for whatever, however long, but like, have they gotten any better? You know, have you looked at them? Have you watched a video of them? Have you added tags or punchlines to anything? Have you tightened it up? Have you taken out superfluous words? I don't think those things cross his mind. I've never seen him actually review footage of his own stand-up other than to okay it for posting to social media.
Wow, that's pretty wild stuff. Hold on, we got some boobies coming in. This is from Blockbuster. We got a song playing.
Hey, I can see your underwear. Put your boobies fist in the air, flapping like I just don't care. Can I lick your pubic hair? Snap a picture, time to share. Took my meat vision impaired. Filthy mind, I need a prayer. Pervert cameraman, beware. Pervert cameraman, show them tits.
Thank you.
Pervert cameraman, $10 tip. Pervert cameraman, Yanni Celeste.
All right.
Pervert cameraman, show them breasts. Boobies.
We got a pervert cameraman donation coming in
Hey
over
Marge,
here.
how many thick boys, current and non-current, are secretly homeless cats?
Well, I think everybody who's there, like, gets the humor. You know what I mean? Like, there's nobody there who's like, what? Like, it's crazy that people make fun of Brendan. It's crazy that anybody thinks he's arrogant. It's crazy that anybody thinks he's a raging narcissist who lies about everything. Like, we all know he's erratic. They all know that he's unreliable. We all know that he flies by the seat of his pants. So even as a managerial style, it's just, you're dealing with a lot just from his erratic nature as a human being, which of course is in tension with like how he presents himself to the world as like, a polished, wealthy, professional entertainer. But now I understand that like if you're an on-camera guy, it's not always the easiest transition to be a manager, but he kind of bills himself that way. It's not like he's just a regular, like, look, I'm a comedian. I don't know much about managing. He's like, I went to school to study business. Like, you can't tell him shit about how to run a business. He's got it all figured out. In his mind, he's the big boss man, business guy. So like, this is part of his identity, is like how good he is at business and management and all these different things. But like, he relies on a few tactics, like, control by threats, by keeping people off guard, by pitting people against each other, by making things competitive when it doesn't need to be. Like, there's no real like long-term vision. There's not a lot of great communication. There's not a lot of encouragement almost at all. Like, I remember thinking before I got fired, I'm like, when was the last time I was even told good job about something?
So he never really was that supportive like that? Like, hey, man, you kicked ass this week? No, huh? Damn, man. I keep on hearing from people that he's like the nicest guy in the world. He's the most giving guy, this and that.
Yeah. I mean, like, but who? Like who they've met for like 5 minutes? Like, again, okay. I'm saying this, I worked with him 7 days a week. Now, at first, maybe you do that because what do narcissists do? They love bomb people. So of course it's going to be like, the first Christmas I met him, he gave me $1,000 from, Christmas, or like he'd like give me things here and there and just kind of like, do a lot of future promising, where it's like, oh, you're going to be this and you're going to be that. But then like his actions just aren't in line with that because again, he undermined me in a lot of ways that were just, I felt like totally unnecessary, like to boost himself or whatever the motivation was behind that. But it was like, it almost like anytime he spoke about me or to me, on TFATK especially, be like, oh my God, like let's do, 5 minutes on how gross it is when Mark eats or something like that. And it's always just kind of like, like I always would go like, imagine if I was doing this to you. It's impossible to picture because he'd get so defensive and sensitive about it while also calling me sensitive all the time. Like that was his favorite thing to be like, you can't be so sensitive and argumentative. I'm like, are you describing yourself, bro?
It's very ironic. Yeah, we hear him say that all the time, and it does sound like he's the most sensitive out of anybody. It's kind of wild.
Oh, I mean, just imagine criticizing him for anything. Imagine like you don't do it because like that's why people why do they correct him more? Because he makes a fucking issue about it. Like, you're going to constantly correct this guy when he's getting facts wrong and pronouncing things. It gets old, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And also, like, it's boring, like, not boring, but it's annoying correcting a pathological liar, Because it was like, that's why people go away from you eventually. Like, any pathological liar I've known, I always just distance myself from them because, like, unless they're talking about you, I don't really have a desire to correct them. You know what I mean? Because it's like, what am I, your fucking mom? Like, I have to like correct you every time you're wrong. Like, grow up and tell the truth, you idiot.
Well, listen, there are so many donations coming in over here. I would love to stay with you all night, but I mean, I don't want to keep you. I mean, we've been here for an hour and 40. I'm having a pleasure talking to you over here, but I mean,
there's no rush on my end.
All right, you want to hear the rest of these questions?
Of course, bro.
All right, let's do it. Hey, we got hella Mark Harley here. He's game. He's ready to go. Fire it in. We got a Kainoto donation coming in.
Wonderful.
I just tuned in and saw this guy on the screen and thought, why is Christ on Trenbolone? Was that really Brendan's wife? Holy shit, not a single day in the gym was spent with that broad. She's ready for the liposuction Olympics.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Hey, I don't know. Like, see, that kind of stuff, like, you know, you had me at Christ on Trembolone, but I'm not into body shaming women, to be honest.
She has 2 kids. How do you go to
I know, like, yeah, dude, she's in her 30s and had 2 kids, man. I think she deserves all the credit in the world, to be honest.
Yeah, that's one of our interesting viewers over. Thank you, Kainoto. Appreciate that.
No, I get it. Like, I get like guys do that and stuff like that. It's
Wonderful.
Hey, I don't subscribe to it.
No, I don't blame
There's
you.
a funny story about how stupid Brendan is. He was arguing with a journalist about whether or not giraffe had the letter D in it. He thought giraffe was spelled giraffe. True story. He's a moron. This is a true story.
He told this on King of the Sting. I saw the clip recently, and it's like, it's one of these things. Now, I saw something live that was like similar to this, where like 2 months ago, he revealed to us that he thought New England was a state or something like that. like he's like, yeah, the New England Patriots. What's New England? And we're like, it's a collection of states. It's like a region, you know, like you would say, you know, the Midwest or something. Or not, I mean, I guess it's more formal than that, but like I would describe it as a region. He didn't and he went around the room. He's like, Chin, did you know that? Casey, did you know that? Mark, did you know that? And we're like, yes, of course we knew that New England isn't a state, you know, like,
yeah.
And this is another one where it's like, you were in your 20s.
Well, New England is a state. New England is a state. I think you're getting it mixed up over here. You're saying like Boston, you're talking about like within New England being its own.
I'm saying New England is a region. It's a collection of states.
Yeah.
It's not a state. It's a collection of states.
I know. I'm just trying to throw you off here. I'm just trying to see if I can get you. I'm just trying to set a little trap. Nothing. Okay.
Exactly. You're like actually, but Brendan was right. You're a fucking idiot.
All right. I'm just making sure. All right. So listen, I gotta throw some tests out there just in case. You never know. We got Jeremy Stutz.
Mark, would you work with Ariel Helwani?
Would you work with Ariel Helwani?
Yeah, because at minimum he seems like, and again, you have maybe had some negative experiences, like, and other people maybe have had, but like, to me, the big like green flag when I look at that guy is at least he communicates properly. You know what I mean? I would assume even if there were issues with working with him, which I don't know, I haven't gotten into detail with anybody about what the particular issues were working alongside him, but at least he seems like somebody who could take accountability, even if maybe he could be mean or overly direct. And maybe that's something you want to tell me more about, like what was sort of the broad category of the issues you had with him. But like, at least he's an effective communicator, because that's really what it comes down to. When I'd butt heads with Brendan and, you know, like we'd have these disagreements. I'm like, we're not even on the same page, you know, communicating. Like we're just talking past each other, because I'm going out of my way to be really clear, precise, and as concise as possible, and he likes to kind of deflect and shift the goalpost and, you know, use all these sort of bad faith tactics in argument. So,
okay, there you go. We got something else coming in here from
Super chat.
lyrics of best songs.
How often did Brenda piss in the sink?
Did
multiple times a day.
He did piss in the sink.
Oh, multiple times a day. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
again, like, this, it was weird. Like, it didn't, I think a lot of other people had a more visceral reaction to it. So only, you know, like the creative director, Mike Nell, who's a great guy, you know, and great guy, never met him. He was the one who, like, you know, and he's really direct too. Mike's a really great communicator, and I liked working with him as I like working with everybody. Because at Thiccc Boy, because they're all good dudes. Mike was a really good communicator, and he was able to communicate directly with Brendan, and that's what would create tension, because he would say things like, you know, here's how you're failing me as a boss, or whatever, or just like, hey man, if you're gonna criticize me, like, you know, he's gonna speak his mind, and you should be able to do that when you're kind of like, you know, the next in line as far as the power structure. You should be able to communicate openly, and especially if you're, you know, in charge of strategy and stuff like that. So he communicated with him, hey man, this really bothers me. You know what I mean? Like, this really bothers me that you piss in the sink. Everybody else goes into the hallway and goes to the bathroom. Like, you're pissing in the sink that's not like a sink in the bathroom. It's a sink in the middle of the studio. like right next to all these glasses and that everybody uses. It's like next to the refrigerator. So like any splashdown is going to be like on utensils and shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So he perceived it as being very rude, and Brendan agreed to not piss and then kept doing it, you know? So.
Well, listen, this is pretty wild. Listening to all these stories over here and things that you are saying is true. It's almost like the Fighter and the Kid subreddit is coming to life right now. It's like blowing my mind how you're saying that these things are true. Now, I just want to make this very clear to the audience over here. This is coming from Mark Harley. This is his side of the story over here. We don't have both sides of the story, but this is his side. Very convincing. Very convincing.
And also, like, look, here's what I'm going to throw out there. Brendan, go live with me on any podcast. Go live with me. Go live with me. And we can air it out, and we can bring our evidence, and we can discuss these things that you're claiming. So I'm going to challenge you to do that, knowing that you can't do that because you're an egomaniac who's been lying about the entire situation. So of course you won't fucking go live with me. Everything you said, beforehand, as far as your side of the story, was in fact a complete mischaracterization at best and an outright lie at worst. If you believe that there's something more to the story, go live with me. If you believe that the evidence that I just provided, one of the pieces to show that you were lying about basic elements of the story like timeline, you said it was 8 hours and really it was 4. I provided evidence from my phone. So unless I had that all queued up, ready to go because I knew the questions in advance, it would be impossible for me to make that up. But if you feel like I did, if you feel like I lied here or I fudged any evidence, let's go on a podcast together with a neutral arbitrator, somebody who will give us each time to speak and each time to present our evidence. And I am 100% confident that you will look like a fucking idiot because you lie about everything, including every single thing that you told the host of this podcast before we went live.
So I was actually going to try to pull that off. Actually, that was the move I was going to try to make, and there was a decline. Yeah, apparently he does not do media. That's what I got.
Right, he doesn't do media. He just does 18 podcasts a week.
Yeah,
doesn't do media. Hires a PR campaign. Doesn't do media. Does a bunch of other people's podcasts that you may know. Like I can think of a number off the top of my head. He did Rick Glassman's podcast. He did the garbage podcast, whatever, like Are You Garbage podcast. He did Kim Congdon's podcast. He did one recent, he's always doing other people's podcasts. What are you talking about? He doesn't do media. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Well, Brendan, if you are watching or if anyone that you know is watching this stream over here, I'd like to throw my name in the hat. I would be completely unbiased. I would leave the homeless cats at home, and I would say, let's do this. Let's put this together. Let me know in the chat if you'd like to see this. I think this should happen because, listen, we are only getting one side of the story. That is the truth, but you are willing to do this live, and if he is not willing, that doesn't look very good, right?
And also, I want to applaud you, too, with even, because I'm wary of going on these shows and just being like, here's my side of the story. Like, it looks like I'm complaining or whatever. Or like, of course it's built in. Like, you could be exploiting this just to allow me to say the most salacious things possible if that was my agenda to get views and make headlines. But you did your due diligence as, a journalist in this field, and you actually went out and solicited their side of the story. And you fielded it to me in real time, which I think you should be able to do, and if I'm agreeing to this interview, I don't think that's out of bounds whatsoever. And I invite that because, I think if you're telling the truth, you should be able to think on the fly because your story should say the same. And it shouldn't line up with somebody who's telling, the opposite of that. And, so I applaud you for not just turning this into team me up to say the most salacious things. You did, in fact, you were willing to contradict things I've said. And to me, that speaks to your desire to be neutral in the situation. So
I appreciate it. And like I said, I do have people that I am connected with that are friendly with Brendan. I don't know Brendan. If I knew Brendan, I can give my actual opinion. I've gave my opinion on the Gringo Papi. That was easy to do. But with this whole situation, like I said, we're just getting your side over here. And I got to be honest with you, I am leaning towards your side because this is the only side we're hearing. There's really nothing else we can go by. Other than a Reddit that is just very unhappy with Brendan.
Yeah. But also, I still haven't put out all the evidence I have. Not that and not that there's any like bombshells of like I showed you on my phone, like maybe some of the stuff I haven't really reviewed it in terms of like what the claims are, but like, I already know, like, it's like, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about, the 6 months of, clips not being to like, again, to me, that should just be like inherently like a ridiculous claim, because why would you like be paying somebody for 6 months of work that they never did, and you're like the boss? Like, what does that say about you? But like, also he didn't name anything. So all these things, like, I think you can sort of inherently tell there's a lot of issues with the story. But yeah, again, like, I'm calling you a pathological liar, Brendan. Like, if you care enough about your reputation to pass on this information through somebody else, I think you care enough to rebut it, right? Because this makes you look really fucking bad.
There you go.
And none of this was said privately to me ever. Like, you could have emailed me, you could have texted me. I only blocked you after you sent me this ridiculous fucking like, I did text, and I put these text exchanges online where he's like, after I went on Red Bar, he's like, you should be proud of yourself. And I go, you should be proud of yourself too, dude. And he's like, you were my friend. Like, he goes, why would you do that on a podcast? I'm like, dude. Like,
wait, hold on a second. He said he sent you a message after you did Red Bar?
He did. Yeah, I'll read it out loud now. Here we go.
Hold on, let me zoom in on this. Here we go.
A lot of cats have already seen this, but like, I'm gonna try to
just make sure you don't show any numbers.
Oh yeah. So the first one is, hey brother, I don't like the way things went down between us. You're a great friend to me. Working together makes it fucking tough. No, it doesn't. Working with you makes it tough, but like, again, I worked my ass off for this dude. Anyway, the drama part of it starts where he goes, you should be proud of yourself. That's sarcastic, by the way. I don't know if a lot of people got that when I posted it. And I go, yeah, so should you, dude. Thumbs up. He goes, you were my friend, man. And I go, you weren't my friend. And I say that because, yeah, you were my friend at some point, but then you started acting like a fucking asshole and undermining me at every turn and talking shit about me, behind my back, and just generally exploiting me. So he goes, maybe I didn't handle certain things always right as a boss, but to go on a podcast for what? Which is a stupid question to ask, because like, you would go on podcasts and talk shit about me when we were friends, right? So it's like, okay, so you can air out, your frustrations with me talking too much over the weekend, and my wife that you just met, and you're shitting all over her, but like, I go on a podcast to speak about my experience in a matter-of-fact manner, and that's an issue. I said, hey, you treat people like shit across the board. He says, that's not true. LOL. I say, hey, dude. And then he says, it's all good. Wish you the best. I go, you realize you're going around the country telling people I send shitty dick pics, right? And then in response to him saying, it's all good, wish you the best, I go, haha, fucking pussy. The moment shit gets real. Well, which meant like, the moment shit gets real, and he always does this. Like, I go, like, I start to list off shit. He's like, hey, man, I'm good. I'm going to let you. It's like, because you can't confront reality. Weird. And he goes, I go, the moment shit gets real, I go, you need to be honest with yourself. You don't just treat me like shit. You treat everyone like shit. And I've tried to explain that to you, but you're not interested in hearing that. And then he left me this stupid voicemail.
What's up, brother? Decided to send you a voice note and say not to text you. I don't,
I'll subscribe to
reasons. I don't know, man. I've been contemplating whether hitting you back up. You seem really upset.
No, I
obviously.
don't. I didn't.
Man. If you wanted to hurt me, you got me, brother.
You got me.
Got me.
I'm bleeding out.
I don't understand it. I don't
understand it.
Your friend. It's weird. I'm not even mad. I'm not even mad. I'm not even mad. I'm not. I don't know why. It's weird. I'm not mad. I'm just hurt, man. I'm sad about it.
It's all about me. I'm not even hurt.
You're a friend, man. You're a really good friend. You don't have a ton of friends.
He said, I don't have a ton of friends.
It is what it is.
Yeah. It is what it is. Why?
I hope you're doing okay, bro.
I hope you're doing okay.
I hope you're doing okay.
Obviously, you're mentally unwell, and that's the reason you're doing this, right?
Even now.
If you need anything, if you need me to just like pay you the money that I owe you from, months ago. Like,
despite all the bullshit we're dealing with. I hope you're okay, man.
Weird deal.
I truly, truly love you like a brother. You were great to me, man. You were. You're a good dude, and I miss you, man. I hope you're okay. I doubt you text me back.
But then I did, and he had blocked me.
You have, you feel the way you feel, and if that's valid, if that's the way you feel, man.
If that's the way you feel.
I don't know what to do, But yeah, I hope you're okay, man. That's it.
So my takeaway from it, of course, I'm happy to hear your response, but very manipulative, right? It's very sympathetic, and you almost go like, oh, poor baby. But then you go like, he takes accountability for 0 things, right? And now maybe he feels like it's all my responsibility. Okay, that's fine. You should say that then. If I thought that, I'd be like, dude, what the fuck is that was all your fucking fault. I'd be mad. Because I'm not even mad. Oh, you're not mad. Thank you for being so gracious and not even being mad at me being honest about the ways in which you treated me like shit. Then he goes, I'm really hurt. Makes it about him. Then he implies it just sounds like you're really upset. Listen to the Red Bar interview that he's responding to. There is not a hint of malice. There's not a hint of anger. I'm speaking matter-of-factly. And in fact, you saw me get riled up on this podcast today, but some of that was hearing these accusations for the first time. You do get angry and you do get upset. By the time that I was speaking on my experience with Red Bar, I had already let my emotions settle for several weeks. And I don't like to speak out on things when I'm angry. Mm-hmm. That's never my style, is to have a reaction and just blast it because I go, I need to think this through. I'm angry. I need to go, lock myself in a room and figure that the fuck out. And I went back and forth on whether or not I would. And I only decided to speak out when I felt like I got enough information and talked to some people that had a similar experience. And it crossed over to be like, you know what? I need to do this for more than myself. If it was just myself, I'd be less interested in doing it. Maybe I'd still do it. But if you know me, that's not how I'm really driven. And I've had situations like this before where I kept it private. And I've emailed people and just told them what my issues were. And some people actually can respond to that. And go, you know what, you're right. But I always will lay it out for people. And I've done that with Schaub before. And so even the idea of I don't understand, I've laid it out very clearly in writing multiple times for him, all these issues that he had. And he gives me the same treatment of, I don't understand.
So you're saying basically this is not your first rodeo. He always comes back and plays the victim and he's sorry and this and that.
Dust up, it's always, hey man, I didn't like how you did things. And to Brian's credit, by the way, I've had a couple dust ups with Brian, some disagreements, minor things. He'll look at me the next time I see him and go, hey man, come here. I'm sorry about yesterday. That was wrong. I was a little heated, whatever. And I can go, yeah, man, me too. I'm going to take responsibility. And to me, that's the masculine thing to do, is take complete ownership. If the other person doesn't want to accept your apology, you can't force them. If they don't want to take accountability for anything, you can't force them. But Brendan has never once looked me in the eye and said, hey, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. And I think he's done a lot wrong, and I dismissed a lot, and we kind of I'd let it go. But what he's never done, what you didn't see here, and what you're not going to see anywhere in the text, is going, it was wrong of me to do this thing. That's never happened. And that's also very telling,
Wow. Holy smokes. I'm stopping it right there. That is like a mic drop. I was going to go into the Kalila stuff, but you already spoke about that stuff on other shows and all that nonsense. Are you still team Brendan on that, though, with Kalila? Or
that's more nuanced, I guess. I think my opinion of who Kalila is as a person has maintained the same, but just Brendan's level of fucking idiocy with dealing with I think they were wrong to bring up the accusations of the truck wog and saying he hit me in the DMs. It's that's a little bit of a dicey territory where I just don't I don't like trying to hurt somebody's family, just for clicks and views. And then secondly, the Bobby Lee, is the master of the subreddit thing. That was so many levels of fucking stupid. He hires this fucking team of fake hackers, gives them cash in a fucking duffel bag, and knowing who he went through to get these hackers, in retrospect, I'm oh my God, why didn't you fucking tell me that at first? I would have been run, don't walk, run away from this person. You're probably getting scammed. In retrospect, you realize that, I think to some degree, that this all may not have been real, but he's not evaluating the 300 pages of evidence that he claims to have had. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And then it's the stupidest thing in the world to go out and publicly, not publicly, but go to Bobby Lee knowing that he has a platform to talk about if your accusation is false. It's kind of like the gay thing we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. When you're telling, other people that oh, this guy's gay, it's imagine that's not true and walk yourself through the ethical implications of that false assumption and false accusation. For a narcissist, that's impossible because it would have to open up the possibility that you're wrong about something, which is very difficult for him to do. So because of his arrogance, because of that pride, because of his inability and unwillingness to think through anything, he just made the situation, which was stupid in the first place, 1,000 times worse. And he still can't own up to that fact when his ticket sales are dwindling and the views are dwindling. He won't even acknowledge, like, hey, maybe the fact that you attacked and bullied this beloved comedian, that might have something to do with it. Oh, no, it's because of the recession. Sure thing, dude.
Oh my God. I love it, man. I love your honesty. I love the way you you're an open book and you explained your side of the story. I appreciate you stopping by tonight and your lovely wife coming on for a little bit as well. Hey, anytime you want to come back on, you have anything to say, you're always free to come back on the show. And you said you're going to be starting your own podcast, right? Like a new podcast?
Yeah, I got a couple things in the work. I'm going to start a podcast with Isaiah Miranda. I'm going to rebrand my own solo podcast and also have something else. So we got a few things in the works. I don't want to, talk too much about it just in case, like, I hate being like, this thing's going to happen by next month, and then it doesn't. But just know, of course, I want to continue podcasting. I really enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to doing it without, having to also work for a dickhead like Brendan as part of the deal. So,
Mark, you're the best. It was a pleasure meeting you. Love to speak again soon, and have a great night. All right.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much for having me on, and thanks for asking the questions and being a neutral participant in this back and forth.
Thank you. All right, there he is, Hella Mark Harley, live on the MMA-Holes. What do you say in the chat? Wow. Wow. Now, we do have more donations. I'm going to get to your donations. I'm not going to leave you guys hanging dry, but we have Mark on for 2 hours over here. There's a lot of information, and if we missed any questions or anything like that, may have to drag him back on. But 2 hours. We need to discuss. We need to talk about this. We need to digest what we just witnessed tonight. This was... My brain is scrambled from all the information that came in. Now, if you could do me a favor, if you could hit that like button, I appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe so we can see your comments in the chat. Boy, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to digest. I'm going to play the rest of your donations that were coming through, and I want to get your thoughts, the people of the chat, on Hella Mark and his appearance on the MMA-Holes Live talking about Brendan Schaub. We'll be right back. Very dicey. Dicey.
Wonderful.
underworld of legends.
Let's woo! Woo! Woo, woo, woo!
Wonderful.
Okay. If you're just jumping into the stream, boy, oh boy, a lot of stuff went down on the MMA-Holes live. As hella Mark Harley came on, 2 hours talking about Brendan Schaub and the firing and the behind-the-scenes stuff over there. So much went down on the stream. So I want to get your opinions on this. I want to catch up on the donations over there. I tell you what, you guys kept coming in. I appreciate it. We would have been here all night. So let me just play these real quick over here.
Wonderful.
Crazy stuff. Let's discuss.
Anyone who is into shoes as much as Brendan is, and mercilessly makes fun of other people's fashion sense, most definitely wakes up with a fat cock in their mouth every day.
Oh my God. Dude, I feel like I need a cold shower after that. Like I said in the beginning of the stream, in the middle of the stream, and we played, I did say the Brendan Schaub side of the story. I did question him. He did get a little animated about, those questions. I wanted to try to stay as unbiased as possible. Tough to do when you're only getting one side of a story. Now, I understand we dropped this on the Fighter and the Kid Reddit, and you guys turned up tonight. So I appreciate you guys stopping by over here. I am not as well-versed in the Bopaverse as you guys are. But there were times during that stream where I almost freaking broke down. Like, the shit that was being said in the chat was so freaking funny. There were times where I almost lost it. So credit to you for almost making me break my character. Thank you. Let's get into another donation over here and see what you guys got. Here comes T-Hole.
Mark needs to do one podcast with Chris DiStefano. That's my old neighbor. He couldn't stand be with Swab.
I tell you, well, I think Mark's going to be fine. I think whatever he does, I have a million more questions for him, but like I said, we would have been here literally all night. Might have to bring him back and get the other questions off my mind. But boy, a lot was said. Lions roar echoes further than us homeless cats.
Oh, super chat.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Does Jesse on Fire rent a studio from Brenda Swab?
No, he does. I could answer that for you. He doesn't. He does not do that. Thank you, man. Thank you for the donations. You guys are fucking savages.
Super chat.
Appreciate the donations, the support, the Clipper coming back.
Mark, thoughts on Heisei on Fire defending grooming?
Bro, you're so anti Jesse on Fire. Maybe the next time we have him on, maybe I'll bring Jesse on as well. One's in the chat if you want that. Would you want Mark and Jesse on Fire? They did a podcast together. They're friendly with each other, right? If you guys want those both guys on, let me know in the chat if you'd like to see that. We got to get Schaub on. Yeah. We got to get his side.
Come on, get loud, MMA-Holes in the crowd.
Here we go. Come on.
Come on, get loud, MMA-Holes in the crowd. Got MMA-Holes in the crowd. MMA-Holes in the crowd. MMA-Holes in the crowd.
We might have a new Justice League.
Tell us more about Bopper's cheating behavior. Is he in an open marriage and does he actually want to be married?
So, okay, Red Bar, he dabbled into that. He's not going to say whether he's a cheater or not. I don't think he has all of that information, and if he does, he's not quite talking about it yet. But he did, on our stream, he did allude to certain things about maybe, possibly, I don't know if this is even true, but maybe there's trouble in paradise. That is from Mark's mouth over there. So do with you will with that information. I have no idea. Like I said, I feel like if Schaub does not want to talk about this, that's on him. That's whatever he wants to do with it. But I do think Schaub's he's got to say something on this. I do feel like he's got to get out there and say something. And by the way, listening to the voicemail, so Mark played a voicemail from Brendan, and Brendan sounded sincere. Like, if I didn't know any of the backstory, if I didn't have any information coming into my ears and just listened, and I know people that are friendly with Brendan and still sing his praises. So, just because Mark went all this way and said all these things, which I'm not saying Mark is lying. No, that lion. Anyway,
Wonderful.
Anyway, that's a stupid joke. But here's the thing, there are still people that still truly love Brendan for who he is and this and that, and there's that side of the story too. So I would like to get both sides. I would. But listening to that voicemail, I was like, damn, my heart kind of sank. I was like, bro, he sounds legit. Brendan literally sounds like he is genuinely upset, like he lost a friend. Now, maybe he is a complete narcissist, and maybe, he's been there, done that. There's so many times you can give people chances before you're like, F off. And it seems like Mark is in that place right now. He's like, you know what? I've been screwed over so many times. I'm done with this guy. He's done. He's officially done. So that was wild, man, to listen to that voicemail. That really was pretty nuts. If you missed it, run back the stream. Listen, let me know in the comment section.
Super chat.
I swallow cum.
Does Boppa hook up on the road?
There we go again. Listen, like I said, we're not going to get that answer. There's no definite answer. Mark is not going to give you that answer, right? You're not going to get it.
Super chat.
My man Mark. What did you think of the homeless cat incels debate in your shoe size? Ironic now you're their lord and master. No. Also, great knit cap.
So it is interesting. This whole thing, Mark was basically one of the public enemy number ones, Fighter and the Kid was going hard on Mark for a while. And now his separation from Schaub made him kind of a hero. It's nuts because look at this poll over here. Put this on the screen. This is nuts, man. Almost 1,000 votes in there. Are you team Mark Brendan? 91%. I mean, this is. If I'm Brendan Schaub, I would have to say something. Whether he does it. I mean, he's got a million platforms. He could do it on his own platform. But I think, like Mark said, you should probably go on an unbiased platform and hash it out. Get your side of the story. I mean, 91% team Mark in this situation. That's pretty drastic. What's your problem with Ariel? Long story short, Ariel said one thing to me. I don't want to get into that story, but anyway, I trolled around with Vox, did my thing, and when I ran into Ariel, this was 5 years ago. He said, "I love what you're doing. Keep it up." We took a picture. It's on our Instagram. We took multiple pictures, different occasions. And then 4 years later, he went on a very low level podcast that I guess he thought no one was going to watch, and just kind of threw us under the bus. We're just nothing but a bunch of trolls. I'm like, all right, bro. And then I just kind of turned on him. I was like, all right, whatever. He's a little hypocritical. Actually, he's a lot hypocritical. It's the truth. So I got to be honest with you. I'm still leaning towards Brendan on that one. I don't give a shit what anyone says, just from my experiences. I have met Ariel. I've seen him be hypocritical, whereas I don't know Brendan Schaub. I've seen it on the internet, but I don't know the guy as a person. So.
Super chat.
Bo Archer.
Red Bar is watching. How was your time talking to Mike David? Are you planning to train him?
Red Bar? What's up, Red Bar? How you doing if you're watching? I'm probably not watching. He's got bigger, better things to do, right?
Super chat.
Antone Z, what's up?
Glad I'm not the only one who notices Brendan's an egomaniac. Guy goes hard to convey a cool guy image and it comes across like he's just a try-hard. I
said to someone, and I've said this before, I think this is my assessment, and this is just an outside assessment. And listen, I'm a narcissist. I think anyone that does content creating, I think Mark's a narcissist. I think we're all narcissists. If we're out there putting out content, we think so highly about ourselves that we kind of, you know, ambush things along the way. And I think there's levels to narcissism. And I definitely think Brendan's a narcissist. There's no doubt in my mind. If he doesn't think he's a narcissist, then he's clearly a narcissist. I think there's some narcissism inside Brendan, and I think there is a sweet human being inside Brendan. I really do. From just an outsider looking in, I don't think Brendan inside, in his heart, is a bad human being. But he's constantly shooting himself in his foot. You know, the things that are happening, his decisions he makes, some of the things that he says, sticks his foot in his mouth. It just like self-sabotage after self-sabotage. So I think that's the problem with Brendan. That's what I think, at least. That's my outside assessment. But like I said, I don't think he's a bad human being. I don't. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I don't know. If I knew the person, then I could actually say.
Super chat.
Vet G.
Hey Mark, how did you perceive Bop's relationship with Rogan?
That's a great question. He did speak about the Rogan situation, like on Red Bar and stuff like that. He brought Rogan up a couple of times on this one over here, and maybe the next time we would speak to him, if he's nice enough to come back on, we can dabble into the whole Rogan, the Rogan verse. You know, Callen, Rogan, that whole thing, the comics and all that stuff.
Super chat.
Thank you for the 999, Topher.
Netflix.
A little Netflix activity. Appreciate that. Let me know in the chat, would you like to see Mark back on the show? Or did you have enough? Let me know in the chat.
Super chat.
There's a fire in the kitchen, boys.
Oh my God. You guys are fucking hilarious, man. You guys are hilarious. Thank you for the donation. Appreciate that. Okay, I see a couple of yeses, some no's. No, please, no.
Yo man, Igor Swab got more tall tales than Walt Disney. Mark seems like as genuine as Jesus.
I mean, Mark seemed convincing to me. He seems very nice. You know, but like I said, it's only one side of the story. It is one side. It was weird though. Like, there are two very different sides to this story. There are two very different sides. And, you know, when you look at the track record of Schaub, it's easy to take Mark's side. It is. I'm not going to lie. It is easy to take that side. Let's see. I think I had enough drama. Sober Carl's like, no more of this stuff. No more. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go give Mark a follow over here. It's Hella Mark Harley on his Instagram. And then if you'd like to speak to him over there, you can comment on his posts, and I'm sure he'll keep you up to date on what's going on in his life over there. If I missed what you guys said in the chat, which I'm sure I did, a bunch of people stopped by tonight, drop it in the comment section down below. I need to know your thoughts. Are you team Mark? Are you team Schaub? What did you think about all of the explanations on what went down with the firing? All that fun stuff. I want to know your opinion. Down below in the comment section, let me know, and I'll go check those things out. I appreciate you guys stopping by tonight. We'll be live again on Friday night, and we'll be live for the UFC fights. Jessica Andrade slipping in to fight Blanchfield, and I'm shocked because I got to be honest with you, I think this is a tougher matchup. So Jessica Andrade, Erin Blanchfield, a lot of people crapping on the card, but we got a couple of friends on there. William Knight on the main card, very excited about that. We'll be back to the MMA situation very soon. Thank you to all our new subscribers. We made a bunch of new subscribers tonight. Didn't expect that, but I appreciate it. And clip away, friends. Clip away. I'll see you on Friday. Don't be an a-hole. Be an MMA hole.